All right, let's all take our seats. This meeting is called to order. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting. Today is Monday, November 4th, 2024, and the time is now 6 p.m. Before we begin, I just want to remind everyone of our rules of civility and decorum. Speakers must first be addressed by the chair and not interrupt any other speakers. Public comments must be addressed to the chair, through the chair, to the board as a whole and not to any particular individual on the dais here or in the audience. Personal attacks, insults, and similar behaviors are strictly prohibited. Should you violate these rules, you may be asked to leave these chambers. Oh, what's going on? All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to proceed now to roll call. City Clerk, if you could please begin.
Mayor Penserga.
Here.
Vice Mayor Kelly.
Here.
Commissioner Cruz.
Here.
Commissioner Hay.
Here.
Commissioner Turkin.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Mei Lee. Our invocation for this evening will be led by Pastor Nate Santos of Living Waters Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag led by myself. Let's all stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, Pastor.
Good evening. Thank you. Let us pray. Father, we thank you, Lord, for this pleasure to be before your presence tonight. We thank you, Lord, for the vice mayor, for the city's commission, all the families that make up this wonderful community of Boynton Beach. And we ask that your presence be before us tonight, before every topic that is presented on tonight's agenda. We pray that each topic be presented with truth and fairness. And we overall pray that our hearts be led back to you, Lord. Father, that we can turn our hearts to your precious love, Lord. We thank you for all that you have done for us. And we prepare ourselves and our lives, Lord, for this upcoming election. We pray that you restore this nation to respect you and honor you in everything. And we thank you again for this privilege to be before you. Glorify yourself tonight in our lives and in this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. We're now moving on to agenda approval, additions, deletions, or corrections. Let me begin on my left this time. Commissioner Turkin, if you have any requests for this evening? None? Okay, Commissioner Hay?
I'm good.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
No, thank you, Mayor.
And Commissioner Cruz?
No, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I do have one request, and normally we do this at the end of the meeting. We'll do it now if no one objects. I'd like to request for a special city commission meeting to occur for only 5-10 minutes, don't worry, to occur right after our CRA meeting. Our next CRA meeting is scheduled November 21st. The reason for this request is because I was informed that there is a time-sensitive matter pertaining to approval of a plat, which can only occur after our CRA meeting occurs, but before the deadline. So if no one has any objections for 5-10 minutes, we'll quickly reconvene as a city commission board for that purpose only.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as
Second.
discussed? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. The motion is adopted. The agenda is adopted. Let's keep going. Informational items by members of the City Commission. Commissioner Cruz, if you have any requests.
I do not. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Vice Mayor, if you have any items.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have two quick things on Wednesday. I don't have any disclosures, but informational items. On Wednesday, October 23rd, I was honored to represent the city and present the proclamation with Commissioner Hay on white cane safety. We did a white cane safety walk at Wilbrighton Federal. And so I just wanted to recognize that event and that day. We walked the intersection to bring awareness to visual impairments, and it's important to remember all of the citizens in our city. So, and then I just wanted to recognize obviously the events team and really all of city staff that came together to really make Pirate Fest an unbelievable success. I was here both days. And I think my daughter we closed it out Saturday, and Sunday we were here most of the day and just had a great time. So thanks to Gabby and her team, and really just all of the city staff from, Public Works and Solid Waste to all of our different departments, fire, PD, who were out there and worked really hard to make sure that it was a happy and fun and safe event for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Hay.
Yes, that the White Cane was really an experience. It's amazing how the people get around without sight. They almost like they have sight. But it was amazing and interesting and very kind people. And so we should reach out every opportunity we have to help people that are not as fortunate as some of us are. Also, on yesterday, we had the Souls to the Polls. I want to really thank the PD department and all of the staff that came out in support and spoke. We had no incidents. Everybody just seemed to have a great time. No incidents with the march. Also, the First Friday event was great again, as normal. I do want to thank, we do have a great staff here in Boynton Beach, but I just want to take my hat off to one individual tonight, and that's Adam Temple, who always comes through for me. He did quite a bit in terms of getting things done, and the streets were blocked off. The chief came through, and we had patrolmen out there who I think they were having more fun at the fall festival than the kids were. So we really want to take my hats off to you and Chief DeJulio, and I think Andrew was out there doing a little clowning. But we really do have a great time, and I'm happy about this time of the season. People just seem to have a better attitude. And I just want to encourage those of you who have not already, tomorrow, please get out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hay. Commissioner Turkin, any informational items?
Thank you, Chair, or Mayor. Yeah, I want to start with just recognizing Jim Alderman Sr. is a local Boynton Beach farmer. Him and his son won Farmer of the Year with the Florida Farm Bureau. They're from here. And so I just want to recognize them. They're an older family here in the city of Boynton Beach, and that's hell of an accomplishment. And Pirate Fest, wow, that was amazing. I think that's the best one we've ever had. Last year was epic, but this was just insane. So much fun, so many people, so much good feedback. I told Gabby and Melanie and the events team to put in for an award for this. I think it's definitely first place material because we have a first place team. And so just dumbfounded by that. And I know the community, was super grateful as well. And, just from the fiscal standpoint of in raising those sponsorships, I think was great. And we can really see, what we can accomplish, when we partner with the private sector. The Veterans Build last Friday was also a very good event, great turnout. We were fortunate to have the luncheon here at the Arts and Cultural Center. I was able to give 2 proclamations to the 2 builds of both Army veterans here in the city of Boynton Beach. And I just want to thank all staff that participated in that and came out, early in the morning, to help those, who served our country. And, obviously Habitat for putting it on and all their sponsors. It was a great event. And, yeah, I think that's all I got. Thank you. Oh, First Friday was awesome too, as always. And, yep, that's it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. We're going to move on now to announcements, community and special events and presentations. The first item under this section is a proclamation for Family Caregivers Month. This is being presented to Mr. Ricky Petty. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas November is designated as National Family Caregivers Month, a time to acknowledge the vital contributions of family caregivers who provide essential care and support to loved ones managing chronic conditions, disabilities, or the challenges of aging. And whereas over 53 million adult and over 5.4 million youth family caregivers in the United States are the unacknowledged backbone of the nation's long-term care system by providing daily assistance to manage health and personal care, thus enabling their loved ones to stay in their home longer. And whereas family caregivers are the cornerstone of compassionate care, offering physical, emotional, and often financial support, many times at great personal sacrifice, to ensure their loved ones can maintain their dignity, health, and well-being. And whereas Healthier Boynton Beach, a community-driven health initiative committed to improving the health and well-being of Boynton Beach residents, stands with family caregivers, advocating for greater awareness, resources, and support to ensure they have the tools and assistance they need to care for their loved ones while maintaining their own health and well-being. And whereas it is important to recognize the many contributions of family caregivers and encourage our communities, health providers, employers, and others to support their invaluable efforts, now therefore I, Type and Surga Mayor of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim November 2024 as National Family Caregivers Month. All right, Mr. Petty, if you'd like to come up and receive this proclamation, and I'd like to ask all my colleagues in the commission to take a picture with Mr. Petty. And afterwards, if you could say a few words about the work that you're doing in the city. Thank you.
All right. So I would like to say thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Manager, and thank you, Commission, for recognizing our family caregivers. As the Director for Healthier Boynton Beach, our goal is to improve the lives of family caregivers, and we've been doing that for nearly 10 years here in the City of Boynton Beach. As we know, caregivers have some challenging times. And, you know, sometimes the work they do, it can be very rewarding, but it's also very challenging. And we're thankful that you all shining a light and raising awareness about family caregivers. So we appreciate the proclamation, and we appreciate you raising awareness about the challenges that caregivers face on a day-to-day basis. So thank you again, and we greatly appreciate it. Yeah, so City Manager asked about a luncheon. So this is National Caregivers Month, so we're having a luncheon on November 12th at Benvenuto's, where we are recognizing and celebrating our family caregivers. So we do this each year. It's our annual luncheon, and we have a lot of fun there, and our caregivers really, really appreciate what we do for them. So that's our day, and we look forward to seeing you there, City Manager, and having a good time. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next two items are announcements. The City of Boynton Beach Veterans Day ceremony is being hosted by the Boynton Beach Veterans Task Force and City of Boynton Beach at Tom Kaiser USN Boynton Beach Veterans Memorial Park, located at 411 North Federal Highway on Monday, November 11th, starting at 11 a.m. The ceremony will honor and recognize all individuals that have served in the United States Armed Forces. For more information, you can visit the city's website. Again, that is Monday, November 11th at 11 a.m. The next announcement on the list is Tire Amnesty, November 4th through November 8th. The Solid Waste Division will be having Tire Amnesty Week for the city residents the first week of November, from November 4th again through November 8th. All right, that concludes all the announcements. We're going to proceed now to public audience. Again, each individual has 3 minutes. This is not a Q&A, but it's a time for you to be heard. We're taking down notes. After we conclude with those in person, we'll go to those online. For those of you online, I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining on the clock, since I know you can't see our timer here. And then for those of you in the room, we have 2 podiums. We can alternate. The timer is behind me, so you can keep track of your time. Is there anyone that would like to speak under public audience? Now is the time to approach the podium. We've got 2 podiums. We can form 2 lines. And as always, state your name first for the record, and then you may begin. Just make sure the mic is on, please. Yep, great.
Cool. Hi, I'm Josh Weinrob. I live in the community across the street. I'm here to address the situation with the artificial grass code enforcement here. I just want to start off by saying, one, thank you for hearing me out here. I have the same goal as everybody else here, which is to better this community. I've lived here since 2016. I've been selling real estate here for 10 years. This is a personal situation for me because I did put artificial grass in and I was not aware of a code that that went against it, and I'm hit with a pretty hefty situation here where I'm told I have to remove my artificial grass and put back sod. Seems a bit off to me. I'm trying to better the community. That's a big one with curb appeal. We don't live in an HOA community, or at least a lot of the communities around here are not HOA, which comes from its disadvantages as much as it comes from its advantages. One of them being people don't have to keep their lawns uniform with the next door neighbor. That being said, we have a lot of homes in the community that are a little run down, a little messy, and I know that the city is working hard to correct that, but that is going to take a very long time. There's thousands of homes over here. The artificial grass that I put in, they're saying that you can't have anything that's any xeriscape, which is any area that does not need maintenance. You can't have more than 100 square feet of that. To me, again, this is just crazy. I have artificial grass that I don't have to water at all. I spent tons of money because of that piece. And also, we're in Florida. It's very difficult to keep sod alive, keeping your front yard looking nice. My landscaper lives 2 houses behind me, and his grass was dead. That's just, to me, that's a perfect example of if he can't do it, most people can't do that. And I'm asking that the commissioners think about changing this code. It's a code from 1996. There's been a ton of technology in turf and artificial grass, one of them being the drainage. My artificial grass drains 70 inches of water per hour. In my opinion, if we have more than 70 inches of water an hour, we've got a lot of bigger issues than my artificial grass. So I'm just asking that we reconsider it. There's a lot of benefits to it. It looks clean. I put a example of my house where you can see the swell that is owned by the city, which I'm still have to maintain myself. You can see the difference between that and what my artificial grass looks like. That was from a picture from the summer. So you can see the difference. And then pretty much it saves on water. I mean, I've read a study, an average of an 1,800 square foot property will save about 99,000 gallons of water per year. I think that's a massive, huge impact, and then not to mention cost for a homeowner. If they can put the grass in or the turf in, saves them a ton. So I want to get that done in 3 minutes, but thank you for hearing me out. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we have another podium. Whoever's ready to go.
Okay.
All right.
David Katz, Boynton Beach. Adam, go Canes. Sorry, Susan. I want to thank Commissioner Kelly, for standing fast on getting the funding for the paving in Boynton Lakes as well as the meadows. That's kind of finished now. You've been a very attentive and responsive commissioner, and we want to thank you. And to the crew, Kevin, Carl, and anybody else who's been involved. And the crew that was out there was very respectful. The other thing is, if there was a department in the city that should be Department of the Year, it should be Gabby's department. No doubt about it. Between Chelsea, hi Gabby, where are you? There you are. Between Chelsea and Melanie and everybody at the Pyre Fest who wore the shirt crew, it was a success. And that includes the First Friday concerts. It includes Taste of Boynton, anything that goes on down there. And please, I implore you never to cut the funding of her department, because that is such a draw to this city. And I thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach, and yes, I disagree with my friend on AstroTurf, but you guys are well aware of this because I've written you countless times. I do want to start out with saying, please do something about the tree issue. That house at 149 Southeast 28th Court knocked the power out on my block twice in one night last Wednesday night. FP&L was not happy the first time, let alone the second time 2 hours later coming out. So that's 4 times in about a month and a half that house has been responsible for knocking power out in my neighborhood. So please get something done about this. Thank you, Commissioner Turkin, for coming out and judging my neighborhood's Halloween decorating contest. Thank you for picking me as the winner, but I can't accept the award, so I was happy to pass it on to someone else.
Cut out all the other options.
Oh, I know. All this wind has really hurt the decorating contest, let me tell you. But thank you. I want to say I am pro AstroTurf and gravel. As you are well aware, I have a unique yard thanks to the city commission prior to you that approved my having a different setup. But to back up what the other gentleman was saying, we live in an HOA-free neighborhood on the east side, and our houses are worth substantially more money than HOA neighborhoods generally, just because we do have freedom of expression, which last I checked was a First Amendment right. Yay, go Cindy. And to agree, yes, it takes drastically less water. It takes drastically less fertilizers because you're not putting any fertilizer down. It takes less of everything to maintain an AstroTurf yard. This is not the putt-putt golf stuff of days before. This is nice stuff. Even level 2, like I have in my backyard, look, I've had it for 12 years and it looks like the day I bought it. Yeah, and it's really, if you look at the other states that have adopted this, where, for example, California, where you either spray paint your dirt and your weeds green because of the droughts, or you put in AstroTurf. I also want to remind you, xeriscaping is allowed by state law, so not allowing this causes a problem. We do live in a state that's either feast or famine with rain. We're now in drought season, or you're flooded. Both ways, the AstroTurf and gravel yards are better. I would highly suggest you look at doing the grid and gravel system for the swales because it is very difficult to maintain any kind of grass on the swales that the city has put in. And I also want to say flood mitigation is becoming more and more of a problem, and the AstroTurf does allow the rain to sink through quickly. Gravel, of course, the grid and gravel system like I have is just beyond compare, as the mayor well knows because you've done the research before when you approved my front yard. And I do want to say thank you for always listening and appreciating and taking this into effect. And yay, the yards stay green all the time. So code will be able to focus on the trees, not the grass. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Cindy Falco Di Corrado. As many of you know, I was accosted in this room here by an officer that I still see outside there. And I wanted to say that I inquired to have an updated, corrected affidavit. Well, that's not what I got. I'm going to read this to you because each one of you that were here were witnesses to what transpired that night. And I'm really getting very concerned that our police officer, the police department, is not writing documents correctly. And how many other people are they doing this to? And how many people are sitting in jail and being arrested for crimes that they did not do? As you know, I was sitting in my seat when this transpired, and there was 3 other speakers after me. So this is the supplement, supposedly the rewritten one, corrected, as I was told, document. And now a James Sean is also a culprit and signing his name to a document fictitiously. I spoke with Sergeant Jean, who advised the following. Falco Di Corrado had just finished speaking her allotted 3-minute interval and returned to her seat in the audience. A male then began his 3-minute allotted time to speak. While the male was attempting to speak, Falco Di Corrado became loud, attempting to stop the male from talking and being disruptive. The male then turned to Falco Di Corrado and asked her to stop and let him talk. That's a lie. None of this is true. Sergeant Jean then advised Falco Di Corrado that she already had her 3 minutes to speak and that she has to stop being disruptive and let the male talk. That is not true as well. Falco Di Corrado then raised her voice once more. That is not true. And when she did, Sergeant Jean advised her that she was on her warning, and if she continued to be disruptive, she would have to leave the commission meeting. Sergeant Jean then began to return to his previous location. While doing so, Falco Di Corrado then began to raise her voice once more, even louder. Oh, you mean when he was twisting my arm and shoving it up my back? Yeah, you would too. It hurt. So Sergeant Jean then advised her again that she must leave for disrupting the meeting. That's not what transpired. Sergeant Jean advised that the mayor then had to stop the meeting to address Falco Di Corrado, at which point Sergeant Jean grabbed Falco Di Corrado and escorted her out to the commissioners meeting. So I'm here today to put this on notice that I will, and just to let you all know that I will be suing the city of Boynton Beach and the Boynton Beach Police Department. Somebody needs to talk to the police department and learn how to write the truth. I am so tired of these lies. As I said, my father was a Miami-Dade police officer. He was a peace officer. He would never even allow such a written lie to be written and then have signatures on it. These are officers of the law who are supposed to uphold the law. This is not. This is crimes committed against me, a senior woman, and this has to be rectified. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Karen Reinhardt, and I'm here to talk about these polls that I keep coming up here every time I come, about the polls that have been put in our neighborhood. Now, we were told that the Utilities Department approved these permits. Now we find out that no, they didn't. And I mean, when are you gonna let the people know what you're doing in our neighborhoods? And another thing I'd like to talk about is I lived by the 95 wall. There is graffiti all over it. I mean, come on. I pay a lot of taxes, and I've lived here for plenty of years. That whole wall, it's disgusting, garbage all the time. Why can't our city, if we're such good community standards, why can't they do their job and get something done in that neighborhood? Because it's not right, it's not fair, and, you know, like I said, I pay a lot of taxes just like all these people do, and I don't feel that community standard is doing enough, and I really would appreciate sooner or later us finding out why you put these poles in our neighborhood before we do have a storm, because the last storm we had, that was nothing. The poles were going like this, and they're so close to our homes. Nobody was told about it. You just stick them in our neighborhood. It's not right, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the chambers? Otherwise, I'll go to those online. Let me take a look. I see one person online. There's a Luann Moore. Let's go ahead and unmute Ms. Moore. And Ms. Moore, I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds on the clock. State your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Good evening. I'm Luann Moore. I would like to wish you all well as we face the outcome of another contentious presidential election. I would also like to take this opportunity to call on all to remember that whatever thoughts and feelings we have, it's our choice and our actions that define who we are. We live in a world of technology that has become particularly invasive, particularly the wireless technology and the problems they have, they have been shown in court to cause mental and physical illness and DNA damage by a landmark case in August of 2021, where the Federal Communications Commission had their human exposure guidelines for radio frequency microwave radiation thrown out of court in remand that they have not yet responded to, except to announce that after some additional studies that also showed evidence of brain damage and cancer, that they would do no more. The FCC approval of your wireless devices is virtually meaningless, and there are over 14,000 pages on file with the court showing proof of harm. And furthermore, over the last 8 to 10 years, we have had the significant development of the wireless body area networks, considered by some to be 6G. This is the use of the human body for telecommunication networks. Wireless systems can connect to the human body collection band that is an intra-body band that can provide biometric information and access to the body and mind. Wireless capabilities include the capabilities of the human body collection van that can connect to, the wireless systems can connect to the human body collection band. That is an interbody electrical band that can provide biometric information and access to the body and mind. Capabilities include neuromodulation and behavioral control by increasing the electricity through the human body collection band.
30
Reports
seconds.
are that there is little to no oversight on who has access to our bodies and what they can do to them while we are kept in the dark and prohibited access to our own information. These Wi-Fi mesh network poles that are being deployed into our residential neighborhood are no small matter as they increase the public's exposure to this kind of hazard.
All right, thank you,
You know,
Ms.
where is this all going?
Thank you, Ms. Moore, for your comments. I believe there's one more person online. If that person is ready, Cameron Maharaj, state your name for the record and begin when you're ready. IT, go ahead and unmute this person, or is it on their end? Okay. Mr. Maharaj, going once, going twice, 3 times. All right, thank you. We must have lost the connection. Thank you so much. With that, public audience is now closed. We're going to proceed now to the next portion of the agenda, which is administrative. Under community support funds, we have 2 requests, one from Vice Mayor Kelly. We've all seen the documents, $500 to the holiday dinner baskets. May I have a motion?
So move.
All right, is there a second? All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve this request, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Commissioner Turkin's request, 850 to East Boynton Little League. Is there, all right, is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor of the motion to approve this item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to advisory board appointments. Give me a moment while I pull up the list. Okay, so under the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, there are no applicants. Art Advisory Board, no applicants, and I'm mentioning this to let everyone know that there are positions available. Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals, no applicants. Education and Youth Advisory Board, we have openings there as well. Now we're moving on to the Employees Pension Plan Board of Trustees. There is one applicant, Greg Malisev. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your last name correctly. Vice Mayor, it is your nomination if you would like to make one.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to appoint Greg Malisev to the member employee representative.
All right, and we have a second from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor of the appointment say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We have openings in the Historic Resources Preservation Board. It's a quasi-judicial board. We have openings in the Recreation and Parks Board. And the last one is the Senior Advisory Board. The nomination for the regular seat is from me. I will nominate Philip Martin to the regular position.
Second.
All right, we have I don't know who was first and the second, Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor of the appointment of Philip Martin to the Senior Advisory Board say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So that concludes advisory board appointments. Purchases for over $10,000. This is just an informational report, unless my colleagues have any questions for staff on this item. Okay, may I have a motion to accept the written report at least?
So move.
All right,
Second.
and we have a second. All those in favor of accepting the written report say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. We're now moving under consent agenda. Are there any items that my colleagues would like to pull under consent? Take a moment to take a look. If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All right, the motion came from Commissioner Turkin. I heard the second from Commissioner Hay for the consent agenda. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to consent bids and purchases over $100,000. Any items that my colleagues would like to pull under this section? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve consent bids and purchases?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor. Is there a second from Commissioner Cruz? All those in favor of approving consent bids and purchases over $100,000 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to public hearing. Our first item under public hearing is 8. Let me double check I didn't miss anything. Is that it?
Yep.
Yep, okay. 8A, this is proposed ordinance number 24-012. This is second reading. It was previously tabled, so let me first ask, is there a motion to remove this item from the table?
So moved.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor and a second from Commissioner Hay to remove this item from the table. All those in favor of removing this item from the table say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, Mei Lee, it is second reading, so let me turn to you. City Clerk. Yep.
Proposed ordinance number 24-017, second reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the City of Boynton Beach's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15, Offenses, Miscellaneous, Article 9, Boynton Community Appearance and Maintenance, Section 15-120, minimum standards for appearance and maintenance of public property and private property, providing for conflicts, severability, codification, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you, Mei Lee. Let's turn to Ms. Stone. Ms. Stone, if you had any updates for the board and for the public.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I don't really have an update. They asked, you guys all have seen the plan to implement the compliance and the ordinance. If there's any questions you guys have. The one thing I will say is, I probably wasn't clear on this from the beginning. This is going to be more of a reactive violations, whereas they're going to be mostly complaint driven because most of these are in the back of the properties and we can't see the back of the properties for most of this. So it's not going to be an overwhelming, like we're going to go out and here we go, start looking, sweeping. It's not going to be that type of enforcement. It's more so going to be compliance if it's a complaint. And then, if it's something that we can see ourselves that is hazardous. But just so we understand, it's not going to be like a task force to go out as soon as this grace period is over.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Candace, for explaining that. I understand the point of it, but my problem is that if we're not being proactive and we're just waiting for somebody to complain about it, then what's the point? So as much as I understand that it's complaint driven or that's the goal, there's a lot of trees that are not necessarily on a resident's property. They're on, maybe a lot, for an example, Lawrence Road, where maybe it's part of, it started out as the decorative trees for an HOA, and now those decorative trees are encroaching on the power lines, and it's not necessarily affecting a resident, but at the end of the day, if somebody loses power, it's gonna affect the residents. So as much as I understand that we want this to be, or we expect this to be complaint-driven, there are circumstances where there are trees that need to be addressed so that we don't have the public lose power because of trees that are not necessarily in somebody's backyard or on, private homeowners. I mean, my vision is that we are kind of out there. I mean, I'm out there looking at stuff. I call Andrew and Adam and staff all the time to say, hey, this is going on, or whose responsibility is this? So I hope that we are, even, as city staff, making these kind of evaluations and seeing, is this something that we need to address? Because I understand what you're saying, where you want it to be more complaint-driven by, maybe residents that have an issue with their back neighbor and, or maybe it is on private property, or maybe it's on public property but it's encroaching on their property. But what are we going to do about the trees that aren't necessarily disrupting somebody's property, but they're gonna disrupt somebody's power or disrupt somebody's property if they don't get addressed?
Right. So as of right now, in a different section of the ordinance, those communities with like big communities and commercial properties, they already have this in the ordinance. This is mostly for single-family homes. And yes, we can still be proactive, but what I mean is it's not gonna be a task force, like let's go out as soon as the grace period's done and start going house by house to see what we can see. Now, if there's trees in the power line when we're driving down Lawrence Road, of course, we can address those trees as well, but we'll use the same grace period and the same method with that.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of it, Commissioner Kelly, Vice Mayor Kelly, Adam Temple. A lot of the complaints that we've received are largely on the east coast of the city, where a lot of these utility lines are in the rear of the properties. So when staff mentions that, not necessarily be proactive, it's not because they don't want to, it's because they are unable to access those areas to determine if the trees are in danger. So in many of those instances, it will be complaint driven.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, I'm good.
Thank you. Commissioner Turkin?
Thank you, Candace. I know we've been playing tennis with this one for a little bit.
It's okay, it's a
So,
big decision.
thank you for your patience. So as far as, I like not being reactive, I think this is gonna be, hold the neighbors accountable, right? This is something I see all the time in my district. There's a lot of single-family homes, no HOAs. And so, we see a lot of this encroachment into the power lines. At the same token, like, for example, my property, I have Calusha bushes. I planted them a long time ago because I had a very ugly fence and I wanted it to look pretty in my backyard, right? And now they're getting big. We've had a lot of water and they're getting close to that power line. They're newer. And I have very low power lines. They hang in, almost 9 feet off the ground, right? A lot different than the backyard, which people, can't access. Front yard in Forest Park, you see a lot of mango trees that are encroaching in the power lines. And so, for me, for this, I think it's important that we support you in your efforts of this not being a task force. I don't think we should do that. I would like to see like a 6-month grace period and let this be effective, maybe 6 months from now. I've spoken to Amy Kemp, the External Affairs Director for FPL, and I've asked her to take a look at this as well, and then see if we can do some type of courtesy cleanup, through these neighborhoods before this goes into effect. So staff, she wants to see the ordinance. If this moves forward, can we please get with her? Andrew, I know you know her pretty well. She's more than happy to support, and, last thing I want to do is provide any unburdened costs, for our residents. But at the same time, we have to allow the city to have teeth, and make sure that we're keeping our community safe. The other thing is, I know in some neighborhoods they're moving towards underground power lines. I think within the next 5, 10, 15 years, this might not even be a discussion item. Until then, I think we need to do something. So that's my position is, 6 months of a grace period to allow FPL to assist where they can with the community and trim those trees. They've done it before in my neighborhood, and I think utilizing Amy, she's a great resource. Could be very beneficial to our residents as we get through that grace period. And yeah, I think that's it. Those are just the things I want to see, amended. If we can write in an effective date. I don't know, City Attorney, if you want to speak on that. That's something we can do on second reading.
Well, this is second reading. So we would need to table this again unless you want to come up with proposed language for that, if you'd like us to make.
Effective date from 6 months from the ordinance if it passes, would that suffice?
Well, just so I understand, to clarify, if effective date to begin enforcing,
Yes.
okay. That is something we can do.
Now,
That this provision will become effective on such and such date, and then we'll have the grace period she talked about, but we'll, in the interim of that 6 months, we'll still do the campaign?
Yes,
Let people know?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
the public affairs
So-
campaign, work with
yeah,
FPL.
education and all that.
Yes.
Door hangers, and get the word out about the new ordinance, yes. Or the new updates, not the new ordinance, but the new update.
What was the timeline that you proposed?
I proposed 3 months, 90 days for grace period, and then basically, if you were cited, as long as it was in health and safety, then it would be another 3 months. So basically 6 months before the notice actually goes out. But we can do 6 months grace period and then work that. So that gives a little more time. As long as it's not a health and safety and causing sparking and things of that nature.
Yeah, I'd like to do the 6 months. We're getting into the holidays. You know what I mean? November's gonna be gone, December, January, you know. So I think 6 months is more reasonable and allows the residents a little bit more time to get prepared.
6 months from today, and I just would have to double check. I do believe the ordinance says immediately upon passage, but 6 months from today is May 4th, 2025. So I don't know if we want to round that to a specific date that's not so, it's not really a round number. If we want to do like maybe June 1, 2025, whatever you guys decide.
June 1st is okay with me, if it's okay with my colleagues.
First is okay with me.
Fine. June?
Okay, so I will add that language to the ordinance, and that's what will be approved. So we need to do a motion to approve with the amendment providing for a June 1st, 2025 effective date of that provision of the ordinance.
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 24-017 with the amendment of an effective date of June 1st, 2025.
Is that me?
All right, we haven't had public comments yet, but
Oh.
no, it's all right. Thank you for the motion. Is there a second? Then we'll go to public comment after the second. That's fine, too.
Second.
All right, we have a second. All right, let me switch to the timer.
Sorry, public comment before.
Yes.
Yeah, I
All right,
apologize.
Ms. Oyer, when you're ready.
Thank you, Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach. 6 months is too long, and this is not FP&L's job. This is your job to get out and take care of your tree. I am not 25, and I am a girl, and I go out and climb the ladder and trim my own trees. So the guy at 149 Southeast 28th Court, which, yes, I'm officially filing a complaint if that's what needs to happen to make this problem get resolved. They need to be out trimming their own trees, or, oh my gosh, hire somebody, which I've had to do too, to trim my neighbor's tree that hangs on my side of the yard. None of this is onerous, and everyone can do it. And if you can't afford it, then go out and trim it yourself, or hire the neighborhood kid to come take care of it, or work out a barter system with someone who's able to. But 6 months is just kicking the can down the road till we're sitting right on top of another hurricane season, and there's no way that you guys can handle this volume of trash. You guys complain every time, or solid waste, not solid waste, but utilities or whoever it is, every time the hurricane season rolls around and we're all out trimming our trees. This really doesn't need to be more than 3 months. Please stop kicking this can down the road and make this sooner than later, and let's get this done. Let's get it done in the dry season when it's cool. Everyone can get out, get their trees trimmed, get your bushes trimmed. My next door neighbor is a rental. The company that owns the place is out of Texas. They have repeatedly been told that there's a Florida holly in the backyard. It's now so tall you can see it from the street, and it's hitting the power wires. Why is nothing being done? If I'm not walking in people's backyards and I can see this, then code can definitely see it too. So can every person walking down the street, as FP&L goes through twice last Wednesday night, just flashing their lights up along the poles and seeing all the trees that are touching this. Please stop kicking this can down the road. Get this done in the next 3 months. Everyone can get this done in 3 months. If they truly have some kind of condition problem, then let there be an exception or some kind of way that they can extend it. But let's not just keep kicking the can down the road. This is better taken care of sooner than later, as I am tired of my power going out because of 149 Southeast 28th Court. And you all are going to keep hearing this every time, because this is not kidding 4 times in a month that this house has caused a power outage. I have a very sick pet with very expensive meds that have to be refrigerated. Commissioner Churkin and I have talked about it. This is a lot of money that I lose if the power goes out and I can't keep those meds refrigerated, all because this person's too lazy to climb their tree, and I'm a girl and I'm climbing my trees and I'm getting it done. Then you can do it too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker on this item, right, 8A.
Cindy Falco de Corrado. So I have a question. How was the Florida Power and Light lines allowed to be so close to people's private property? In my situation, we have an alleyway which is owned by the government, and we have trees that are huge from the government, which goes into the wire. Okay, that's on the outside alleyway, and it goes through, if you look through the alleyways, you'll see lots of these big trees that were planted there way before I ever moved into the neighborhood, okay? And they should not be my responsibility, and I should not be in charge for those things. And again, on my private property, I take care of my private property. And part of private property means private. Okay, so Florida Power and Light with electricity, they need to move the poles. Why did they put them and encroach them so close to people's backyards that they're being held responsible for trees that grow? It doesn't seem right to me. I think there needs to be a bigger, better solution than this, and I think the burden of the beast needs to put on the Florida Power and Light for putting their poles so close to people's backyards. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment speakers on this item? Seeing no one in the chambers and no one online, public comment on this item is now closed. We have a motion and a second before us. Are there any further questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay. All right. Meili?
Okay, Commissioner Hay?
Aye.
Commissioner Turkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Penserga?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passed unanimously.
All right, thank you. We're moving on to the next item, 8B. This is proposed ordinance 24-020. It's also second reading. I'll turn first to our city clerk, but actually, one more thing, remove from the table. Is there a motion to remove this item from the table?
Move.
A motion from Commissioner Hay and a second from Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor of removing this item from the table say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. So Meili, I'll turn to you to read into the record.
Okay. Proposed ordinance number 24-020, second reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Article 2 of Chapter 18 of the Boynton Beach Code of Ordinances entitled Employees Pension Plan, amending Section 18-145, City of Boynton Beach Investment Policy for General Employees Pension Fund, providing for codification, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you, City Clerk. Before us, we have Ms. Bonnie Jensen. Ms. Jensen is the legal counsel to the Board of Trustees. Good evening. If you could give us an update on the matter.
Yes, so I am here in support of this ordinance being passed. But I would like to embark on a conversation about removing so many specifics from the ordinance itself and treating this plan like like the police plan and the firefighters plan, which have really kind of general language about their investments, and then by policy that's adopted by each of the boards, they make amendments, which allows for more flexibility, more opportunistic investments. So if the board comes up with an investment through their investment consultants and their investment advisors, they have the opportunity to amend their plan. The city gets notice under the state law for 31 days before that particular ordinance goes into, or that particular policy goes into effect. And the city has an opportunity to look at it both at the finance department, at staff, at legal, before that takes effect. That's how the other plans here in the city operate, and many of the plans throughout the state of Florida. We do need this particular ordinance to be passed because this is the current way that it exists in the plan, and we have some investments that the board is looking forward to investing in based upon this ordinance. But just looking forward to the future, to make it more flexible and more opportunistic for the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. Are there any questions for the board attorney? No questions? Okay. All right, thank you.
All right,
Let's
thank you.
proceed to public comment on this item. If you would like to speak specifically on the item, now's the time to approach the podium. Seeing no one approaching the podium, and I see no one online, with that, public audience on this item is now closed. All right, if there's nothing else from my colleagues, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, a second came from Vice Mayor. Let me turn now to our city clerk, unless somebody has any further questions. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. So with the legal advice we just received, are there any specific changes that you believe should be made in the ordinance, like line item per se, or you were just giving general and you're fine with it as is?
As is, this mirrors the language that's currently in the policy that the board has adopted. I just gave you a copy of some language that's already in the city code that the police fund uses for the basis for their investment policies, just for a talking point, so that you understood, really kind of what already exists and what I'm suggesting the general employees be able to move towards.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Vice Mayor.
Bonnie, real quick, when do you expect that is something that we really need to put on the agenda and talk about?
So we'll have a meeting at the end of the month, and we'll be able to present that to the Board of Trustees and for them to approve my sending it over to the city for consideration.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, was there anything else? Okay, with that, Maylee?
Commissioner Hay?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin? Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Penserga?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passed unanimously.
All right,
Thank you for your support and consideration.
thank you, Bonnie. Moving on to item 8C, this is proposed ordinance 24-022. It's also second reading. City Clerk, if you could please read the item into the record, then we'll turn to Mr. Kunzman.
Okay, this is proposed ordinance number 24-022, second reading, ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, approving the Boynton Beach administrative amendments to the 8th edition of the Florida Building Code, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Kunzman, if you want to give us a brief update, or if there's any changes, I assume there are none, or just...
No, there are
okay.
none.
Okay. Do my colleagues have any questions for him? Okay, all right, with that, we'll just turn to public comments. If you would like to speak specifically for this item, this is item 8C. Now is the time to approach the podium. Item 8C, all right, so let me switch to the timer. Oops. I'm sorry, were you in line to speak, or?
I just like some little more.
Oh, come on up, please. All right.
Falcade Corrado, trying to comprehend this and getting a little bit more clarification regarding approving the Boynton Beach administrative amendments to the 8th edition. What was the 8th edition of the building codes? Is this for commercial? Is this for residential? I don't know if anybody's going to inquire any little more information so we, the public, can comprehend what this is really all about. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to provide any comments for this item? Seeing no one else in the room and seeing no one else online, public comments on this item is now closed. All right. Did you want to respond, or do you have a?
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
The administrative amendment is the city amending Chapter 1, and that does address residential and commercial, and it's an administrative chapter.
Okay.
That's all it is.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Maylee?
Commissioner Hay?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Penserga?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. We're now moving on to the next portion of the agenda. Section 10, we have proposed ordinance number 24-023. It's a first reading. And City Clerk, I do not envy you. For those of you listening, you're about to find out why.
Oh, my.
Proposed ordinance number 24-023, first reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 26, Water, Sewer, and Utilities, Article 4, Sewers, Division 4, Industrial and Commercial Waste, Subdivision D, Use of Public Sewers, by creating Section 26-147.5 entitled Dental Facilities that remove to replace amalgam fillings, and providing for local implementation of the effluent limitations, guidelines, and standards for dental category adopted by the state of Florida, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. And proposed ordinance number 24-024, first reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Boynton Beach, Chapter 26, Water, Sewers, and Utilities, Article 4, Sewers, Division 4, Industrial and Commercial Waste, Subdivision, General Provisions, Section 26-115, Abbreviations and Definitions to adopt definitions for hazardous waste, pharmaceuticals, healthcare facility, pharmaceuticals, and reverse distributor, and correct order, amending Chapter 26, Water, Sewers, and Utilities, Article 4, Sewers, Division 4, Industrial and Commercial Waste, Subdivision D.
I'm so sorry.
My time's up. I have to talk faster.
Look at that.
I'm sorry, Maylee, but
That's you?
Maylee, I'm so
Oh
sorry,
my
but your time
God.
has expired.
Mainly, I
faster
think
next
you
time.
need, you need to start over. I'm sorry.
No, we're not doing that.
All right.
Oh, that was
Let's bring
good.
back some order. All right.
That
Thank
was
you.
good.
Maylee, please continue.
Subdivision D, use of public sewers, Section 26-142, prohibited discharges to sewers to add hazardous waste pharmaceuticals to the list of substances prohibited from being introduced to the city's treatment works, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you.
Wow.
All right. Dr. Kalkat is approaching the podium. If you could give us a brief overview.
Good evening,
And
Mayor.
there are two separate resolutions, right? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Yes, this is just housekeeping, really ordinance change that we need to do. Many years ago, Florida Department of Environmental Protection came up with removing amalgam, dental amalgam, and pharmaceuticals, especially dental amalgams, from the waste streams. So these can be removed, all the mercury and everything can be removed from the waste streams. So this has been in place for quite some time, but they wanted us to put into ordinances and make sure every municipality has the ordinance in place. So this is what we are doing right now. Then dental offices, as per Commissioner Cruz's request, we will send another reminder letter. But they've already gotten these letters before, and I think there's not a single dental office that actually uses these amalgams anymore. The pharmaceuticals are just to set up for the future in case that's needed. So this is just a housekeeping ordinance change that we need to make for the water and sewer utility ordinance. If there are questions I can answer, I can go into more details.
All right. Are there any questions? I don't see any. Oh, Commissioner, go ahead.
To approve.
Second.
All right, so just to be clear, there are two ordinances. So the first one is number 24-023. We had a motion and a second from Commissioner Hay. Maylee. For
Who motioned?
the motion came from Commissioner Cruz, and the second, Commissioner Hay. Okay.
Commissioner Hay?
Aye.
Commissioner Turkin is not here. Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Penserga?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passed 4-0.
All right, thank you. The next item here is the related items, proposed ordinance number 24-024, also first reading. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion came from Commissioner Cruz, second from Vice Mayor Kelly. Please begin the roll call.
Commissioner Hay?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin is absent. Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Penserga?
Yes,
In a roll call vote, the motion passed 4-0.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
We're now moving on to 10B. This is the one-year performance evaluation for our in-house counsel, City Attorney Shauna Lamb, as requested by the City Commission at the 6-month review, that we would have it here as well. Okay, all right. Let's go around the dais. I believe people have already submitted their forms, but if not, or you have additional comments to provide, you may do so here. Let's begin with Commissioner Hay. Or unless you have a few words of introduction.
We have a
actually-
PowerPoint.
Oh, you have a PowerPoint? Okay,
yes,
great.
yes, yes.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. Really a privilege to be here, to be able to introduce the City Attorney's Annual Review, okay? And where we had agreed in in May, that we would do it now in October so that then it could coincide with the city manager's review and then annual from here forward, okay? Wanted to just really begin with where the city, attorney began in October of 2023, for the record here, with the arduous task of creating a fully functional, full-service law firm to meet all of the city's needs. And so when we sent you the performance evaluations, I like to really always show what is it that you're evaluating here, so that the residents and the city can see. And so these were the areas that the performance evaluation criteria that we gave you so that you can rate her performance based on her legal and expertise, her management and leadership, her communication and relationships, litigation management, ethics and integrity, timeliness and efficiency, strategic planning, and risk management. And so those were the criteria for you to rate her performance on. Before we go into anything that is related to compensation or any discussions, I mean, I don't know if you want to discuss that now, but our city attorney does have a presentation of her accomplishments that we would like for you to listen to first before we can discuss her salary. Okay?
Let's do that.
All right.
You're going to help me with this?
I will.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I'm pleased to update you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners, on my exceptional progress over the first year here as the city attorney. So when I started on October 23rd, 2023, I was faced with the demanding task of creating a fully functional, full-service law firm to meet all of the city's legal needs. This was an ambitious undertaking, but I'm proud to say that I have created a strong team that has risen to this challenge and accomplished a great deal. This is the first slide, sorry. So one of my top priorities this year has been relationship building and client services. I conducted a thorough needs assessment to align our legal services with the city's goals and priorities. Through regular meetings and open communication channels, I have established strong collaborative relationships with the city commission and city departments. Next, Lynn. This focus on understanding our city's unique needs has been invaluable. I have built a reputation for responsiveness and practical problem solving. With the help of my team, I have provided essential legal documents and agreements with rapid turnaround times and even resolved complex legal matters prior to the initiation of litigation. Next. In addition to my strong client relationships, my team has developed comprehensive municipal law expertise. We've mastered local ordinances, state statutes, and federal regulations, ensuring that the city maintains full compliance with these requirements. I have also created proactive systems for monitoring legislative changes and maintaining ethical standards. Next. To streamline operations, I have implemented efficient systems for reviewing client requests, public records requests, open meeting laws, and standard municipal documents. These enhancements have improved transparency, consistency, and the city's ability to handle complex issues. Next, Lynn. What I am most proud of is my team. We have been active in the municipal law community, building a solid network and representing the city at key professional events. This has not only enhanced our in-house expertise, but also elevated the city's reputation in the legal field. Lynn, next one. Finally, I have, as I said, successfully hired and onboarded a talented team, creating a full-service law firm to meet all of the city's needs. This has improved our capacity, reduced reliance on outside counsel, and delivered improved legal services and outcomes to the city. We are now in the process of transferring all of our litigation matters in-house. There are some that will still be outsourced, but the majority of them will be handled in-house, so you will see, hopefully, reductions to both the risk management budget as well as ours through that. And then, next, Lynn. In summary, I have delivered immense value to the city through improved legal compliance, enhanced operational efficiency, and top quality legal outcomes. As I look to the future, I remain committed to serving the city's legal needs, tackling new challenges, and supporting the city's continued legal growth and success. Finally, as I move forward in this role, I wanted to let you know that I am still 100% committed to serving the city's legal needs with enthusiasm for tackling these future legal challenges and dedication to the city's overall growth and success. Thank you for your time. And I welcome any questions you have. Thank you again.
Thank you. All right, Lynn, was there more?
So I wanted to share the salary comparisons in terms of any discussion around her salary. But before that, I didn't know if you all had any discussion around her performance evaluation.
Would you guys like to do that now, or would you rather wait after Lynn's second half of her presentation? We can do this now, it doesn't matter the order in which we do it. Yeah, all right. Let's go around the dais. If you have any additional comments, that's already in addition to what's already been submitted. Commissioner Cruz, let's begin with you on my right, because I tend to begin on my left. Okay.
I wrote some notes, and I'm happy to hand them over to you. But I'm definitely proud of the work that you have done with regard to creating an entire legal team. I know we started with without in-house counsel, with outside counsel, and we've had better communication with having an inside counsel versus outside counsel. And I know it's a big undertaking, so I think you've done a good job with that undertaking. I would say that there's definitely opportunity for more communication as things happen, maybe before they become, significant issues. It would be good to have more of a continued conversation, maybe continuing to do the check-ins that we have scheduled. And as you mentioned before, the potential of bringing in-house litigation, I think that's a great idea, and I think there's a lot of potential for long-term savings on that end. So I think that's positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, any additional thoughts?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I mean, we had a 6-month, and it was kind of a check-in, and my position hasn't changed since then. I think that we gave you a huge task to establish an in-house, law team to do just what you're doing, and so. I'm very proud of you and the team that you've built. I think that, I can call you and reach out to you if I have questions. I mean, I've not had any communication issues with you and your staff. I pop into the office every once in a while, and you're there, and happy to answer any questions. And so I am very happy with the current state. I think that you and your team have worked very hard to review our city, all the city documents that are on our books to make sure that they're current, and if they're not, giving us recommendations on how we can improve them or change them. And frankly, that's what we brought you in for, was so that we had a little bit more of a hands-on attorney experience. I wasn't necessarily supportive of it in the very beginning when we first had the conversation, just because it's very difficult when you're talking about a city that has so many different components going on, that how were we going to go from having a full law firm that we had all that support to having 1 or 2 or 3 or now 4 attorneys on staff. And so I'm very proud of what you've done and been able to kind of convert what we were spending in outside counsel on bringing quality and long-term, employees and attorneys here on staff. And so I could not support you more on this. I think that you're doing a great job, and your staff is amazing. I know they are proud to work here every day, and always have a smile when I pop in and I'm around. So I'm happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Hay?
Well, I guess we started out sort of rough, on the wrong foot, but I think since then we've as you spoke about the relationship, we have developed a good relationship. We've had our opportunities to sit and talk, and I've been very pleased with your responses, and your emails that you sent out are very clear. But my issue is still, I think there's some improvement needed here as far as the dais etiquette, I call it that. We still need to talk about some things that I have some concerns about. And but from a legal standpoint, I think your team has been responsive, and I like the direction that you're going with them. So for the exception of a few issues, few bumps, I think the road has leveled out. There's still a few potholes here and there that we need to address, but I think we can do that in the future. But you're headed in the right direction. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Commissioner Turkin.
Shauna, you've done a great job. I want to touch on something that Vice Mayor had mentioned. You know, a little over a year ago, we separated from a firm and we decided to build our own in-house attorney's office. And that is, I think, undertaking's an understatement, to be frank. I mean, that is a huge, huge transition. And if you look in the last year, has there been some hiccups? Yes. But has the city moved forward? I believe so. You know, we've seen a lot of real estate transactions. We've seen hundreds of millions of dollars invested into the city. And, you know, that's a team effort. That's not just a city attorney's office. But I think, you know, when you look at our org chart, you know, you see city manager's office, you see city attorney's office, right? And so a lot of these departments rely on your guys' professional opinion to carry out their daily duties. And, you know, I hear a lot of good input from the different departments. You know, I know bringing Dan Losian was a very good move, you know, to help build that community trust, you know, between the police department and the community, you know, and, you know, helping, you know, mitigate issues within the department, right? The one ask I do have I think being in your role is you need to be, this is my opinion, right? This is just Thomas's ask, is I think you do need to be more present at community events. You know, when you see, when the community is out there and they see the city manager, but they hear about the city attorney and they don't see the city attorney, you know, for example, Little League, you know, I think that was a big thing that we could have mitigated if there was that relationship building. But again, you have exceeded my expectations from when we first sat down and had an interview with you. And you've done a great job, and you've built, even more so, more importantly, you've built a team that is happy to go to work and that is happy to put the city first, and that's what it's about. That's a true leader, you know, is can your team operate without you there? Is your team motivated without you motivating them? You know, that shows the signs of a good leader, and you know, that's invaluable, and you don't come across that. And, you know, is there things to work on? There's always things to work on. You know, every human being in this room has things to work on. And, you know, I want to make sure that you feel valued. And, you know, for me, 6 months ago, that review, that was part of your initial contract hiring. So this, for me, is your annual review. And, you know, I'm in favor of looking at a potential increase after seeing the comparisons. Because again, what you've accomplished in this transition is huge, and I don't think a lot of people could handle this, you know, throughout the county and you know, the municipal law community. So you've done a great job. You know, my only ask is, you know, be in the community a little bit more, and I think that goes a lot longer way, you know, with our residents. Thanks.
Excellent, excellent. Any other comments before I move on to?
Yes, I'll make my comments brief. Shauna and the entire team knows very well how I feel about them. I don't need to reiterate it. Sometimes when I say less, it's better. But I think, Commissioner Hay, you said it best. They are on the right track. Not perfect, but on the right track, and that's what matters. So I'll leave it there. So great job on all the work that you're doing, and to your entire team. And All right, looking forward to even more exciting things.
Thank you for the feedback. It really does mean a lot. And, where there's criticism, as you all know, I take that and I listen. And, I do my best to make those changes, and I will continue to do so. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Lynn, let's continue.
Yes. So having heard all of the feedback here in terms of her performance evaluation, what I have before you is a comparison, a salary comparison of city attorneys that are within our county. And so there you will see the Palm Beach County. It is a county attorney, so it's actually the highest one there at $282,699, but then all the others are city attorneys. West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, you'll see where she is actually the lowest compared to the ones we have up there, Delray Beach and Wellington. So what we did was we took an average of all of them. Right now, she is at $215,250, okay, $215,250. And so with a proposed increase of $241,841, that being the average of the salaries of the city's attorneys that are currently within the county. In the last, in May, she was given a 5% from where she was, so that brought her up to the $215,250. And so this is our proposed increased amount to be competitive.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cruz.
I have a question. How many attorneys do each of these attorneys supervise? Because, each of these municipalities, like the city of Wellington is a great city as well, and they're at 226.
I can answer
Boca
those
Raton.
questions.
So it would have been just.
I can tell you because I
for
know
the
them.
future, It
Yeah.
would be good to have that in the chart.
Okay.
For the public to be able to see it and for us. to be
Yeah,
able to see
so Palm Beach County, they have a huge amount of attorneys. I don't know. But I can tell you West Palm Beach she oversees 13 attorneys. Boca Raton, she has, Lynn Gellin has 4 attorneys. Boynton Beach, I currently have, Boca Raton has more. I believe they have 5 attorneys. Delray Beach, Lynn Gellin, she has 4 attorneys that she oversees. Boynton Beach, I have 4. Wellington, there's only 2 attorneys there, but there's only like 25,000 population. So I also looked at each of the populations as well, but we started running out of space, correct. But one of the things that was important to highlight in here, for example, Boca Raton, they just got rid of their 30-year attorney who was making like $325,000. But this, you see they're currently hiring the position with a starting salary at $250 and up. But they haven't hired the person yet. But that's where the starting salary is. The lowest point of the range of what they're willing to hire at. But you can see what is interesting here is, the number of years in the position, but also how long they've been an attorney is also listed.
All right, I'll just begin to get this conversation going. I do support an increase. I'm a little uncomfortable with the proposed increase only because the county, obviously, this is an average, is that correct?
Yes, it is an average.
Right, so the county, skews that, and so does Boca Raton, and no one can really, if a city can afford it, a city can afford it. But, so I definitely support an
I
increase.
believe we excluded the high and the low in the average.
Oh, so the high and the low is not even included in here?
So no, it's included in there, but I do want to give you some data, though.
Okay.
Okay, so we remove the highest and we remove the lowest, which is really her salary, okay? The average is 314.25, so it's not that far from the 241,841.
240.
Yeah,
Three.
240, yep.
It was actually higher to exclude the top and the bottom. So when Lynn and I went over the numbers, we decided to
Yes.
go with the lower number.
The lower number.
Correct.
So being that it's only been a year, You know, I do support a % increase, and I think historically that's what we've chosen to do, is pick a %, and then whatever that is in value. Alternatively, if the board wants to go through a different route, I'm open to a different route, but my recommendation is that we pick at a comfortable % and then whatever that totals to.
What is that percentage?
I know recently for the city manager, we did a 10%. I believe we may have done a raise for you halfway through at the 6-month mark.
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
in
We
May.
factor that in
Was
as
that
well.
6%?
In May, 5%.
5%.
Yes, in May was 5%.
5% in May.
What does the city manager make? 230?
What was that? So if you bring it at 10%, it would be 236,775.
236.
775.
775,
If you
if
give
we
her
agree.
10, if you agree on the 10%.
So the city manager got 10% for the year.
Excuse me?
The city manager got 10% for the year.
And
And so last time, we did a 5%.
I see what
Therefore,
you're
if we do
saying.
another 5%,
What would be
then that
like
would make it
226?
equal to
So
what the
if-
city manager's making. So that would be kind of equitable to make sure that
Okay.
we're both giving them a similar
In growth.
if you,
amount.
if you
for
give
the-
her 5% now, right,
Yes.
which would equate to the 10%, it goes up to 226,012.5.
I can go to 226.
I want to make mention something that, her deputy city attorney makes 225,000. So we need to consider that in terms of any pay compressions. I just want to mention that, all right?
Yeah, as you mentioned that, thank you. I wonder if that's something that should be decided at the staff level, or if that's something that the commission should look into doing as well, like maybe the attorney and the deputy. It's up to the board, but it's something that the city attorney's office technically reports to the commission. So if we were to,
Stacy reports to the city manager. Only I report to the commission.
only you.
Correct.
Yes.
So her salary was set by her boss.
It's approved by the city manager.
So,
We didn't set the initial for that staff, so why would we interject now? So
Right.
let that be within her department. We deal with her
Correct.
only.
I agree with that.
So, I don't disagree, but I just want to, I think I understand, correct me if I'm wrong.
I just wanted to understand, because I don't remember having that discussion, but I remember that
Okay.
that was something that was mentioned before, but I guess that's just the way that it was set up, so.
Well, the charter does require that Dan is the supervisor of all the city employees except for myself. Only he and I, as charter officers, report to the board. So he controls salaries and all of those things. That's not something that I control.
Gotcha.
Commissioner, let's go one at a time. Commissioner Turkin, then we'll go to Commissioner Hay.
Yeah, so I'm not comfortable with the proposed increase, the 241, no offense. I think, for me, I would be comfortable with like maybe 230, so you're above the deputy city manager. I'm not gonna do a 10% increase this time, because like Commissioner Cruz mentioned, we did 5 6 months ago. I'd be okay with another 6, 7, whatever that percentage is, to get you to 230. I think that's fair. Puts you up there with the city manager, and it puts you above with the, above your deputy.
What % is that?
I'm actually trying to calculate
So
that
it's
right now.
definitely more than 5.
It is more than 5.
7%.
Well,
7%.
230, yes. It'll probably be pretty close to 7%
All right,
if you do it 230.
let's move on. Commissioner Hay, your thoughts?
My thoughts, again, she received 5% in May, and I would say another 5% now. Looking at the years in the position, being one, I think, in all fairness, she needs to be on board a little bit longer before I move her up to close to what the city manager or the deputy city managers is, but I would be willing to go up to 226. I think that works out to 5% or whatever that is, whatever that number is.
5% from her current salary
Yeah,
is at
for the current salary.
226.
And that would put her at 10% for the year, and that's my position.
All right, any other questions or
I
comments?
just think that is too close to her deputy, to her deputy.
I
city
heard you.
attorney. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Lynn. I just wanted to hear from my colleagues. Did you have any additional comments or anything?
Just for the sake of being equitable amongst the people that report to the commission, I would say that if we gave a 10% to the city manager, it would be fair to give another 5% to the city attorney so that they can have the same percentage. That's my point of view. There's more time to continue to have, updates in the future. But that is where I stand. I agree with Commissioner Hay.
Vice Mayor? So we've got two ideas on the table. There's the 5% route. Commissioner Turkin recommended 230, so a little bit over 5. Your thoughts?
My position is I am looking at less of the years in the position to more of her years as an attorney. I am really kind of surprised that we're sitting here going back and forth over $4,000 when we have somebody who has saved our city so much money in legal fees. And she has 26 years of experience that she brought in on top of the many years that she brought in with the other attorneys that she's brought in, and the invaluable, professionalism that she brings and that her staff brings. So if the highest we're gonna get tonight is 230, then I will support that, because I think that her years as an attorney at 26 years, she was at a neighboring city for many years, that is my position on that. I'm not, I can't look at the years in this position and say that that's where her value is. So that's my position. Thank you.
All right. I'm a little torn, but I'm also, big picture wise, I'm not interested in having an argument over $4,000. As long as it was below the average, because in my opinion, this is your, first full year, right? So there's many more years to go, and so I'm not concerned about lost opportunity, because there's more opportunities coming along. Okay, any final comments from my colleagues? All right, nothing else. Susan, unfortunately, this is a discussion of the commission. There's no public comment unless my colleagues would agree to public comment.
Well, there's multiple people who want to speak on this.
Okay, there is no public comment. Again, the rules are determined by the board, so if I'm overruled, I'll be overruled, but there's no public comment.
I understand,
Yeah.
but I think you should fire her, so I'll just leave it at that.
All right, thank you, Susan. All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. All right, Lynn, any final comments from your end, from HR? And then we'll proceed with the rest of the agenda.
No, that's it.
Okay? All right, do we need a formal motion?
Did we come
Yes.
up with
So
an amount?
what's your position?
What is-
So
Was it
I've
230?
already said 230, so there's a majority of us at 230. So it's just slightly, a hair over 5%.
Motion to approve the salary increase at $230,000 for the city attorney?
Second.
Okay? All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Any further questions or comments?
I just need a point of clarification.
Yes.
Is this retroactive to October 1? Because going forward, Dan and I are supposed to be on the same evening. They just weren't this last time. So because the commission wants them to go at the same time, I would like this to be retroactive to October 1. Otherwise, I'm not getting a full year's salary.
Okay. Okay,
Fair enough, fair,
Yeah.
good argument.
that's fine.
It's fine.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, and to be clear, the motion, you were okay, since you're the maker of the motion, with it being set retroactive to
yes.
what date?
October 1.
October 1st, all right, and you're comfortable with that?
Yes.
Maker of the second?
Second,
All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone oppose? Motion passes unanimously. All right,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
We're going to move on, thank you, Lynn, to item C, discussion regarding city entryway signs and additional digital signs. Let's continue.
Yes,
Danny, is this your first time on the podium?
Danny?
Yes, second time.
Second time, all right.
It was quick last time.
Okay, good evening.
So, hi, good evening. I am Public Affairs Director Danny Michella. And there's my presentation. I'm excited to be here to give you information on city signage. You're receiving this presentation tonight in response to Mayor Pensurga's request about signage, as well as Commissioner Hayes' request about digital signs. So it's a combined response to those requests to give you an idea of some of the things we're working on when it comes to signs. Our mission is to create a signage network that fits into the city's branding guidelines, strategic plan, and expands its communication needs. Well-chosen signs can become iconic symbols of a city. They can help us create a sense of place and reflect the unique character of Boynton Beach. They can foster a sense of pride in residents, become a welcoming feature for visitors, and a driver for economic development. As you know, goal number 4 of the city's strategic plan is to have a safe, clean, and attractive and beautiful community with the related policy action entrance sign plan. So we're looking at our existing signs, both digital and traditional, to determine the type and style, where they are, their current appearance, their function, and whether they've been effective. We want to make sure any future signage conforms to the city's branding and style, that city staff considers the beautification plan and the public art master plan when making decisions. And I have copies of the branding guidelines if there's anyone who hasn't seen that. It's something that we use in public affairs often. Here you see some examples of our existing signage. We have variations of welcome to Boynton Beach messaging with the city's logo, both at well-traveled entry points to the city, such as US 1, as well as in multiple medians throughout the city. We have 4 digital signs, one at City Hall, one at Wilbright and Seacrest, one at the Hester Center on Seacrest, one at Sarah Sims, and another is planned for Minor and Congress at Fire Station 3. We know these signs are an effective way to communicate with residents, whether it's to promote an event or program, to highlight an achievement, or to convey emergency messaging. And the message itself is easy to change. We do it right from our desks. We would like to add more digital signs, and we'll be considering factors such as traffic patterns and density, and identifying areas where there's no current messaging. I know Commissioner Hayes expressed a desire to have one on US 1. In the past, we've paid about $25,000 per sign. As technology improves, so do our options, and the cost goes up. There are signs with more color options, clearer and larger screens, and video capabilities. So there are a lot of factors to weigh when planning this type of signage. And here is a little surprise for you. Oh, it didn't get added in. I'm sorry, Andrew. Andrew sent me, I apologize, this is a previous one. A surprise, there's no surprise. So we have a rendering.
We just go with the flow.
Yeah, sorry. We have a rendering of a newly proposed digital sign at Little League Field that is really so beautiful. Just take my word for it. We can email that to each of you. I apologize. All right, so Jennifer Marangos in IT is helping us look at our signage plan from a different perspective by creating an interactive map. This is a still shot here just so you can get an idea of it. It's going to be a useful tool moving forward to give us a comprehensive look at the signs we have and possible locations for future signage. We'll be able to click on a location and a photo will pop up so we can see what's there and what's not there and plan a network of signs that make sense. Thank you to Jennifer for working on this big picture perspective. When we think about what we'd like to see and what would work best for the city of Boynton Beach, we have a lot to choose from. When it comes to style and size, I would suggest something similar to these signs in the city of Dania Beach in Broward County. They have small signs for medians and roadsides, you see that on the left, indoor signs for city buildings, that's on the right, and the large sign in the middle, welcoming people to their city. Their size and shape are different depending on the location, but the style remains the same, a recognizable reminder of where they are. Just imagine something like that in Boynton Beach with our own flair, our own colors, and our own style. But like I said, we have a lot of options. Whether it's made of metal, wood, concrete, or paint, there are plenty of ways to let people know you are in Boynton Beach. The style of signs can vary. And even cross into the realm of art. This sign in Orlando on the left seems pretty straightforward by day, but can have images projected on it like a movie screen at night. These murals on the right are both in West Palm Beach. The top one is painted under a bridge, visible to boaters. What do boaters see when they go under our bridges? We could use signs and murals to let them know they're in our beautiful city, the gateway to the Gulf Stream. You've seen the rendering on the left from the Pierce project before from our Planning and Economic Development Department. Their public art master plan will play a crucial role in determining what signage is appropriate for the city. On the right, you see two examples of fairly simple ways to tell people you are here. Both do well on social media. One is a mural in Jupiter, and I don't know if you can see, it has this city name there. And on the bottom right, I think we all know the southernmost point marker. How many times have you seen that on Facebook when your friends visit Key West? It is a unique, long-lasting, and recognizable symbol for that city. We also have options when it comes to location. We want to make sure future signs are in high-traffic areas and city entry points throughout each district. We have smaller signs now that are simply the city's logo with a welcome to above the city name that we see in medians and along roadsides. I suggest removing those over time and replacing them with something more substantial. Some of my suggestions for locations involve capitalizing on places that are already unique focal points in the city. For example, athletic fields. On the left, you see Woolbright Road, just east of I-95 by Little League Field. If we built a sign there to welcome people to the city, the field becomes a backdrop. Similarly, the west side of Hester Field, in the photo on the right, is visible to motorists on I-95. Think of how many thousands of people see that impressive field from the highway and don't know what city it's in. A sign there, again, would make the football field a backdrop. Other possibilities where there is currently no messaging include walls such as the one at Gateway and High Ridge outside of the police department, westbound on Ocean, east of the bridge, or the southeast corner of Lawrence and Minor, to name just a few. We can get creative when it comes to signs. We have a lot of blank canvases in Boynton Beach. There might even be neighborhoods or businesses that would like the city to use one of their walls for a sign. That ends the presentation and hopefully starts your discussion. We'd like to hear your input about what you like, what you don't like, and what signs you'd like to see in the future, where you think they should be. Andrew and I can answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you so much, Danny. Let me just kick off the conversation. I have a couple of points. I'm not going to say all of them now. I'm going to wait to hear all of yours, and we'll go back and forth. So let me first talk about the digital signs. So if you go on that slide to show where they are now, I think every single one of them is only on one side of the city. And so I've always thought, listen, we need some on the western communities as well. And it's useful for a variety of reasons. One, you want to get information out to residents. That's the most obvious. But number two, you want to be able to drive people to the events that our great team here, Gabby and everyone, from all across the city, right? Not just from one part. And so I've always felt like we've been a little bit left out. And what we do see in the west side are those cardboard, no, they're not cardboard, what are they? Plywood, whatever they are,
Plywood,
those signs, right? So, you know, I'm hoping that our city can have more digital signs on the western communities. I know that Minor and Congress, the Fire Station 3 has been slated, it's been talked about, but we really need to wait for Fire Station 3 because that could be many, many years from now. And isn't there some other, hopefully not, but is there some other location that we could choose to get one in place, right? Or two, distributed, or three, because there's already 4 on one side of the city. So do we need to, should that be the reason why we can't move forward, right? I don't want that to hold us up. So that's for digital signs. I definitely want to see more. I want to be able to inform more residents and also invite more residents, right? Number 2, about the signage throughout the city. I think when you made that slide and you put all those different signs up there, I think that pretty much captured my feeling, which is it's a hodgepodge. It is like all over the place. And the example that you chose of Dania, I mean, there was a sense of coherence, right? It's not that you couldn't customize it a little bit more to say it's this district or that district, but there is a central theme that connects the city. Okay, so I'm looking forward to that. And on that note, I think the Art Advisory Board, or maybe there's another Art Advisory Board that could be really good in getting you more feedback and more ideas to giving us the best pop factor or wow factor, right? The next train of thought I had was, I love your suggestion about the ball field and the football, right? So, but my first thought was it should be at every major entrance to the city. You get off the highway, what you should be seeing is something like that to know you've arrived in Boynton. And there are some cities that even have it at the highway. I forgot which one, but there's definitely one north of us that have it on the highway. It could be over the bridge, so boaters will see it, or as someone's traversing to the other side of the bridge. So entrances and exits to the city should be like the most obvious landmarks. I'll leave it there because I have more thoughts, but I want to hear from everybody else. Commissioner Cruz, you were the first hand I saw. Let's begin with you.
Thank you. Can we go back to the map real quick? Thank you.
And again, remember, this is just a still shot of the interactive map. So not done.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, for preparing all that. I think it's really good information to have all together. I happen to agree with what was said earlier. The mayor mentioned, I'm looking at my district selfishly, but I don't see any sign in District 1, except, well, that's District 3, because when you get to 95 is District 3.
95 is District 3.
Yeah, it kind of, yeah. So what I was getting at is, it would be great to have something on Congress Avenue between.
Central, yeah.
Yeah, something central, whether it's, north of Gulfview Harbor or closer to Leisure. It doesn't matter, it's just a place where, as the mayor mentioned earlier, we could really invite and be equitable with all the districts. I'm very much about that, just making sure we treat everyone kind of the same way, if possible. And so something on Congress Avenue would be really great. And then to kind of piggyback off of what I just also mentioned, it would be great for us to have like a big landmark, kind of like how Delray, you get off Atlantic Avenue and you see a really nice sign out there. We should have something like that. And I think that we should prioritize that and prioritize our funding to make that happen, because I think it can really make our city stand out with the rest of the county, and it can really get us, like, we're such a growing city that I think it's really time for us to have that ready, and I think the time is now. So I would definitely, support for funding on that. I don't know if we, where we could get it from with regard to the budget. Maybe the art fee, we could look into that. Maybe those are like internal conversations that we could have. But having a large landmark sign, maybe potentially on Boynton Beach Boulevard, getting off 95 going east, would be really great. Maybe let us know where you guys think might be the best place for it. But I would definitely support something big and something like a staple for Boynton Beach, and something on Congress Avenue as well. Thank you.
Can I just quickly piggyback on that? When we have these signs, there's digital signs, there's entryway signs, but as part of the signage program, we need to highlight our assets, right? I mean, there should be a sign that says, hey, there's an eco park here, right? People don't know because they can't see it. So whatever assets, the list of assets we can make, let's make it obvious, and so when people drive by, wow, Boynton Beach has all these things in it, and I had no idea. Okay, all right. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I think one of the hurdle, I think, for the west side of the city, which I know we have, is land use. You know, and I know that that's one of the hurdles with Congress Avenue is it will be difficult, well, but I'm sure it's a task that you will take and run with, is to try and find some property owner who's willing to allow us to add signage to put some entryway. That is always a challenge on the west side of the city, is to find land that the city actually can utilize, which is why Fire Station 3 has always been the perfect location to have a digital sign, because it's our property. So, so I know that will be an issue along Congress Avenue, but I'm open and excited to see what we can come up with for an entry. And, you know, because there are, you know, our city goes west, and so we do need to, you know, share our great things and events that we have going on and with all the different parts of the city. So, and we have a lot of residents who aren't on social media, and so those street signs and those digital signs are valuable or invaluable when it comes to getting the word out for our residents. So I'm excited to see what, you know, maybe the Arts Board and residents, you know, what we, you know, come up with, or what some of the ideas are. I did like how you kind of went outside of the box. I noticed, like at Lawrence and Minor, where we have the utility fence, why does it have to be green plastic lattice? Why can't that, you know, we see it on schools where they have the colorful lattice that they put their, the school logo or their school mascot on their fence. It's simple changes like that that just really enhance the look of the city without really costing, you know, a lot of money. So I'm excited to see what ideas are out there. I love what you've seen. And, you know, Mayor, I couldn't agree more on the, you know, the having something be connected and it makes sense because what we have now, and I know a lot of it was temporary for the sole purpose that, you know, we had welcome signs that were falling apart and falling down, and so we had to have something temporarily in place until we had these conversations and came up with an idea. So I know that was never meant to be a permanent fixture, so I'm excited to see what we can come up with. But I love the looking at, you know, thinking outside of the box on properties that we own. On Minor Road, we have the, what is it, Andrew, the water plant, the little water plant, that's just a wire fence, you know, just a chain link fence that we could, you know, make that look so much more beautiful for the residents that live along Minor Road in the city. So, so thank you.
Commissioner Hay.
Needless to say, I'm happy to see this finally coming to fruition. This has been something that I've noticed for some time as I drive through various cities, different cities, and I see the signs, I see the shrubberies, well manicured. It says to me this city is well kept without even talking to anyone. And I think we have this, we have the same thing here, but we can enhance it. I do like the idea. Enough has been said. I do like the thoughts been said. I won't repeat those, but except to say I'd really like the idea of having a theme, okay? So it doesn't look hodgepodge. But one of the things that I've had in my mind for a long time, I remember when we first painted, decorated, whatever you want to call it, repaired, built the bridge on Ocean Avenue. The poles and the color theme was teal. And people came from miles around to take pictures of that. And they made comments about it. Every time I went to a meeting, they said how beautiful that bridge was. And Lake Worth did their own thing later. But I think it adds character to the city if we would consider, for example, on Ocean Avenue as you cross the bridge, those poles are tier. And I've talked to Andrew and others about this in the past. And then once you get past Federal, it turns a different color. You know, I would love to see those poles continue to be tier all the way down to at least Seacrest, okay? And at these major entrances where we're putting signs and all that, to see a city that poles are not just a dull black color, but a color like tier that we've already started, okay? I think that would really stand out in addition to, it would enhance the signs that we're looking at here. I'd love to see what the advisory board will come back with some ideas and thoughts on how we can enhance this. But I do like the idea of having, and nothing wrong with the little sailfish that we have, you know. We just have to be mindful of the colors that we select, because blue has a tendency to fade quickly over time versus some of the other colors. So these are the types of things we need to look into. We don't have to rush into this. We want to make it right the first time, okay, or enhance what we already have. I love the idea of having murals on buildings, you know. I love that. And so I think if we approach this in the right way, we can really have the city of Boynton Beach stand out amongst all the other 38 municipalities, okay? So I'm looking forward to this. I would like to see us consider these poles being the tier color rather than, and when you repaint a pole, like in the District 2 over there where they have those little roundabouts and they have these little light poles, many of them were not painted for over 20, 30 years. And then when we did paint them, we painted them gray and black. I mean, and it sort of just kind of faded away. Again, that would be an opportunity for the tier color. And hopefully that wouldn't be such a great expense versus the paint that we're already using. So I really would like for us to look into that, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Turkin, your thoughts?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Hay, Mayor, for bringing this up. Danny, thank you so much for the presentation. A lot of good points. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I want to point out one thing you mentioned about the destination signage, destination art, where people, I mean, you see it all the time if you're on social media. Some people aren't. You know, you have a bunch of people that go and they'll do selfies and they'll do these pictures at certain destinations, and they'll come to that downtown and they'll come to that city just to take the picture. I think that's silly, but that's okay. But that gets people to the downtown area, right, to then go see, you know, what the city has to offer, go support local businesses, things like that. I think, you know, obviously funding is a question about this, art assessment, you know what I mean? I think this is something that staff should definitely push for whenever we're having projects submitted. Pierce being one of those perfect examples. I think that is going to be one of those Instagram influencer signs, right? People are going to see that when they're traveling on the Bright Line, you know, or coming to our downtown. They're going to want to take a picture. And, you know, I think partnering with the private sector is a good way to mitigate that cost for our residents. And then, you know, make it more appealing, right? You know, coming from Delray onto Congress, I don't think there's much there. We definitely need to get something there. You know, as far as the land use goes, I'm glad Vice Mayor brought that up. You know, that's maybe something the city can work with private owners, HOAs, to maybe incentivize allowing that joint venture, that joint agreement. You know, what that incentivization is, I don't know. You know, but I think that's an opportunity to overcome an obstacle of, you know, land use. So I think, you know, looking at this, you know, at that, that bird's eye view, there, you know, there's a lot of opportunities. You know, what is it? Not the homing in. What's the other? Boynton. You know what I mean? You come off 95 off Boynton Beach Boulevard, and it's a dilapidated building. I know that, you know, city code's been on that for quite some time, but I think that's a huge opportunity, you know, on and off the highway as well. You know, I think the DBPA, I think they're trying to do like a billboard or something I don't know if it's digital or not, but that's a potential joint use that we could have right off 95, you know what I mean? And, you know, maybe it's not every single day, but there's an opportunity there where we can partner, you know, with local nonprofits to advertise our city. The teal, I think we're gonna disagree on respectfully on the teal, but I'm definitely open to different colors. I do think that fading is crucial, and I've seen that with the teal. But no, I think having that uniformity is important, and so we need to keep the theme the same. I'm excited to see what the art advisory board is going to come up with, but you know, my top three is, you know, having something uniform, destination oriented, and making sure that we're mitigating the costs, and partnering with, you know, the private sector to help pay for this. You know, as I mentioned earlier, with that art assessment, they can pay into it, and then the city can utilize those funds, you know, to hopefully, you know, mitigate the cost from the general budget.
Another comment.
Go
if
ahead,
I may.
go ahead, absolutely.
Another consideration would be the size of the font that's used and the amount of information that is on those signs. Because there's many times, and I'm not speeding when I go past these health center, but it's very difficult to read all of the lettering going the speed limit. So just do a little study on what would be a better, you know, the optimum size font to use on that. And I only use the teal color because we've already have it in our city in the bridge, and many of the poles are already teal. So very good. Just keep it going.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's about coherence, right? Not being hodgepodge and all over the place. All right, anything else from my colleagues?
No.
All right. Danny, I hope to continue the conversation with you, and I'm really excited to see what you come up with.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
All right. She got a round of applause for her second time at the podium.
I'll tell her what you get the third.
The next item on the agenda is item D, presentation regarding artificial turf. This was requested by Commissioner Turkin, the use of artificial turf on residential property. And good evening, Ms. Radigan. All right, great.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Radigan. I'm the Planning and Development Director. This presentation is before you today to review a summary over what artificial turf is and what some of our neighboring municipalities are currently doing with turf. So turf, what people usually think of is this top layer of plastic grass or some sort of synthetic grass. It's important to note that when we're talking about artificial turfs, we are talking about things that are happening below that grade as well. These includes things like a weed membrane, leveling materials, compacted rocks, some sort of geotextile, and then would be the original soil. It's currently used in multiple of uses, everything from sport fields, patios, rooftops, pool decks, playgrounds. It's pretty widely used right now, and technology overall is getting better with time. So comparison of natural grass and turf. So natural grass requires regular mowing and lawn care. Artificial turf generally does not. There is some maintenance in terms of cleaning. However, mowing, lawn care, things like fertilizers are alleviated with artificial turf. Natural grass naturally absorbs rainfall. Artificial turf needs some sort of drainage system in order to allow rainfall to fall through. Generally, natural grass cools ambient air temperatures, while artificial turf tends to elevate them. Natural grass provides natural habitats and is biodegradable, while artificial turf doesn't support a natural ecosystem and is generally contaminates water runoff with microplastics. Large parts of artificial turf are not recyclable. So these are some of the things within the code that are existing that are limiting its current use today. First, The code does require or does limit the impervious space within the front yard to 40%. So this is everything that's impervious, meaning your sidewalks, your driveways, rocks, and also turf is generally impervious. All kinds of decks and impervious materials are required to be set foot at least 2 feet from all of the property lines. And then areas that are void of landscaping and xeriscaping. So xeriscaping is allowed, landscaping is allowed. If you are not doing those two things, impervious material is restricted to 100 square feet. Also, land development permits are required for any driveways or impervious material that's in excess of 800 square feet. So we did a pretty comprehensive review of what cities within South Florida are doing. We looked very thoroughly at 12 cities overall. 3 cities that we looked at do not allow turf at all. Those cities are City of Green Acres, Jupiter, and the Village of Palm Springs. But there were some pretty standard comparisons among the cities that we did look at that do allow some use of turf. The first thing I'll bring to your attention is that turf across every city that we looked at does need to meet the city's drainage requirements and is largely considered impervious. As long as they meet the drainage requirements, it is okay. Some of the other things that we saw, none of the cities, with the exception of Doral, allow turf to be placed within rights-of-way or drainage swales or easements. All of them required permits and inspections, and all of them required manufacturing and installation specifications as part of that code amendment. This is a summary of what I just went over, so I won't talk about that. So some pros and cons. Pros of artificial turf: it maintains its color and its appearance year-round, which is a big plus to most homeowners. There's less pest control maintenance. There is less water usage. There is no need for fertilizer or mowing. Generally, as technology improves, it's getting better to use in more situations. Some of the cons, though, is that if it is damaged, it does get worn and torn, and replacement costs are high. And when replacement is done, color and wear and tear of the new material versus what was existing tend to not match. It is not recyclable, and there are some general environmental concerns, including microplastics, contamination of water. So what we're looking for is just some general direction on where to move from here. These are some of the things that are within code and why they are within code. The 40% rule is really made to limit parking in paved areas, so there is a way for us to maintain that 40% rule and not count turf as part of that. Well, right now it does. Artificial turf currently is only allowed in the rear of the property. It's not allowed to be visible from the street. And turf is currently not permitted within swales or drainage easements. If the city desires to expand the use of artificial turf, staff does recommend 3 different things. That turf is considered impervious material. Again, that is consistent with all the cities we've looked at so far. That we do require a permit for installation of turf, and that it has to meet drainage requirements, and that we do include specifications and standards for manufacturing and installation. I'm available for any questions and direction.
All right, thank you, Amanda. I have a couple of questions. Number one, the slide where you said we don't allow it in the front yard, but we allow it in the backyard. Let me start off there. What was the reasoning behind that? What's the thought behind that?
It's not necessarily that it is not allowed. The code is generally silent. The front yards have impervious maximums. So the backyards do not. Those are private spaces. People do as they want. I'm not a reviewer for utilities, so I'm not sure if they would completely agree with that interpretation, but the land development regulations does not regulate impervious or pervious within the rear yard, so generally it is permitted within the rear. It is regulated in the front yard, pervious and impervious spaces. The only thing that we have that would limit it in the rear would be if you're doing more than 800 square feet, you need a permit and you need to meet drainage requirements.
That brings me to my second question. Every time it says drainage requirements, what exactly are the drainage requirements? I'm trying to imagine if I was the homeowner and I wanted to put artificial turf, is this thing gonna cost me a lot of money to meet these drainage requirements? And that brings me to my next thought, which is drainage. You mentioned microplastics potentially seeping into our water source, which I am not in favor of. Microplastics are no joke, but what are other people or other cities doing to mitigate that? So I go back to my drainage requirements.
Yeah, I can only answer those things as to the best of my abilities. In terms of drainage, drainage requirements, the engineering and both utilities department have standards for drainage. It is required of all properties. These amendments to the zoning code, while it would allow the expansion of artificial turf, it won't necessarily make it easier to do. I mean, this means that, and this is again consistent with all the cities that we've seen so far, if permits are required, it would require an engineer to verify drainage calculations for that property with every permit. And currently now, that is still the rules if you are installing more than 800 square feet.
Not at this time, not at this time. All right, Amanda, was there anything else on that? Let's turn to my colleagues first, if you have any additional comments, because I just kicked out the conversation. Commissioner, whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I think,
Go ahead.
I think we should allow it. We have it in people's backyards now. Some people have it in their front yards. Obviously, this code isn't uniformed. You know, I went to Boca last weekend or the weekend before to go look at some houses that have this, and they look beautiful. They look absolutely beautiful. Property value increases, maintenance decreases. If Boca can do it, Coral Gables can do it, two very pristine communities, I think we can do it, you know. It's already being done at this point. So I think it's a matter for me, what kind of turf, the drainage mayor that you brought up, I think is important. What is that going to look like? But I don't think we should punish people for trying to improve their properties, you know?
So Boca is one of the cities that we looked at, and they were consistent with the generalities that I've made so far. So Boca does allow it.
Can we pull up that slide so we can follow along?
Yes. Yeah. I think there's a pointer in here, but Boca is like the fifth one in, and if you go down the column, you can see all of the major details that we looked at within their land development code. So they don't allow it within rights-of-way in drainage or in swales. They do require a permit. They do have specification standards for manufacturing, installation, and those types of specifications. It is considered impervious and must meet drainage requirements for the city. And then it doesn't regulate the installation method if it's installed according to standards. I will say most of the cities that we did see are very comparable in their allowance of it. This is a policy decision on whether we want to, allow it or not, or expand its use or not. It could be by a certain percentage. It could be, I think that what the cities are doing is a correct thing to do. The comparisons, the overall worry is twofold with artificial turf. It is its ability to drain water and possible contamination of water.
Right.
I assume within manufacturer specifications, contaminants are within those specifications. I can look more into that if there are certain specifications that we can require versus others. In drainage, everyone across the board has been consistent. You can have it as long as your property is draining appropriately, because if it's not, we're affecting our neighbors and the right-of-way.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I am interested in hearing what other cities do for the mitigation of potential contamination, but that's not a unique problem, right? So
No,
that's
it's
something
not.
people must have already thought of and come up with plans.
Where that is going to be covered within the rules that we've reviewed so far is within the manufacturing installation specifications.
Got it.
So I assume once we get, if it is the board's desire, we will dive into those details a little bit more and figure out what best standards are and require them for the installation of turf.
Anybody else? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Amanda, do we have any installation or permitting requirements if it's installed in the backyards at this point?
If it is more than 800 square feet, yes.
But if it's smaller than that, somebody can just roll out AstroTurf in their backyard?
Yes.
And
I mean,
it's not
technically,
drained,
yes.
and it's not, because, I mean, one of my concerns, because I've seen it a couple of times when people have put it in their backyards, is because it doesn't have proper drainage. I have one person in particular who has a couple of dogs, so I envision, and it smells like dogs, and it's disgusting to walk by their yard. And so when you don't have that natural drainage, and you don't have the, you're running into then having, toxic waste building up on your front yard. And so if you're in a neighborhood where you have you're open to the public, and you have dogs walking up and down, even if people are picking up their dogs, they can't pick up everything. And so that's I'm not closed to this, I'm open to hearing, but I want to hear more as far as what cities are doing with regard to, the microplastics, and are there certain companies that, have met certain requirements, or there are certain things that we can put into place? Because the last thing we want to do is create then a hazard to our drinking water or our other water by allowing people to put in this plastic in their front yard. So I'm open to it. I understand it's beautiful. It does look beautiful, but I know in the couple of instances that I've experienced where they have pets, it's also not very clean. So
Personal experience, like my neighborhood does allow it within the backyards. I can attest it is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in my neighborhood for 5 years now. People who have installed it within the last 5 years, they don't need to mow, they don't need to fertilize. However, what we have found is a neighborhood that is required is regular washing. So they do pay a maintenance person to come by once a month and literally wash the turf. And that is something that we've seen in a few of the cities too that require regular maintenance. Obviously, we're not going to be checking people's bills. I mean, this ends up being on code enforcement and complaint driven. And in terms of microplastics, I don't think it's ever zero. I think that these,
Right.
it is never zero. These products are given some sort of rating, and there are some ratings that would be acceptable in terms of best practices and some that aren't, but it is not zero.
yeah, I mean, we have turf in different areas of the city, so that's why I said I'm not closed to it. I'm open to hearing some options that we have, but in my experience with them, it hasn't been pleasant. So, but that's, those are my thoughts on that.
Commissioner Cruz, you haven't weighed in yet, and then afterwards we'll come back to you guys. Yeah, go
Thank
ahead.
you. I happen to agree with the concern with the microplastics. I think that artificial turf can look beautiful, but it's not real grass. And so my concern is maybe it's a bigger concern for the world, but if everyone just changes their real grass to, it could have a potential effect on drainage and all of that. So, and as you said, I mean, unless they do the regular cleaning, potentially the cleaning issue. So I'm open to it as well. I think that, people should have the ability to improve their homes. At the same time, I think we need to do a little more research and maybe have some internal conversations and or questions that we can kind of talk about and discuss.
Absolutely.
All right, Commissioner Turk and then Commissioner Hay.
Yeah, just for clarification, because I don't want us to get carried away with the microplastics, right? And I understand that. So we currently allow it in the backyard, up to 800 square feet, no permit required. Is there a difference between contamination levels from backyard turf to front yard turf?
So the code, the reason that we require a permit currently is because it's considered impervious. We do not have regulations right now in terms of the product
Or backyard?
for
There's
anything.
So
So we don't have
Wild West, I can
specific-
put down any type of turf I want.
Yes, technically, within the backyard.
Right.
So there is room for more regulation in areas that we even do allow it, is one conversation.
That's not my question. My question is there a difference between contamination for these microplastics between backyard turf and front yard turf?
No, of course not.
So-
The turf is
so
the same no matter where you install it.
My point is, we shouldn't get carried away on the microplastics, because as this code sits today, you can put up to 800 square feet into your backyard, and it's completely unregulated. If anything, it's very good this was brought forward, because now we have an opportunity to set the standard to prevent those microplastics getting into our water, right? So I think we need to be very open to this, so that we are mindful of what it could potentially get into our water supply. And so,
So technically now, you could do even 100% in your backyard as long as you are meeting drainage requirements.
Right.
Anything above 800 requires a permit. So technically, right now, if you are doing anything below than that, you don't even need a permit to do it.
right. So as it sits right now, you can pretty much do anything in your backyard, which, hey, property rights are property rights, right? But I think this is an important conversation, because if everyone's putting turf in their backyard at some point, we have potential exposure for these contaminants. So I think we do need to set a standard, and we need to set some form of regulation in the backyard, right? And allow this as well as the front yard. You know, because for us to just say, hey, we're not gonna move forward with this, I think we're doing the residents a disservice with the argument of the microplastics, right? So I think we need to set the standard, because obviously, other cities have done it. They've figured it out, like, the mayor mentioned earlier, it's practical, someone's figured it out, and so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. But if the argument is the microplastics, I think we're a little bit late to that, because there is no code regulating the potential turf that could be put in. And so I think that's something that I would like to look at for staff to review, as we move forward with this. But, my position is, if someone wants to beautify, and we have a blueprint, and how other cities have done that mitigate, and really, the way I look at this is actually probably gonna be better, because we're gonna raise the standard of what could potentially be put in. Otherwise, Wild West in the back, do what we want, and, that's pretty much it. So, yeah, I'm in favor of drawing up an ordinance, looking at, what a good high standard is that other cities utilize for the front yard, similar to what Boca. I would say, Boca is probably the ideal city to follow. But again, the argument for the microplastics, I'm glad you're back, is that we already allow it in the backyard, and there's no regulation. And so why would we not want to set a standard for microplastics if we're already allowing it in the backyard? And so that's my argument. Let's set the standard, because if we do care about the environment, and our argument is the potential water contamination, and there's no regulation now in the backyard, that's counterintuitive. We need to regulate that. And while we do that, we need to look at, expanding property rights for owners in the front yard. Thanks.
Commissioner Hay?
Well, as I read on this and looked at it, I'm all for it. I think it would be a good thing, but on the flip side, I do have some concerns that we need to probably think about. Many times I look out in my yard, both front and backyard, and I see these birds feeding, and it just, I'm thinking here, would it limit the biodiversity of what we're trying to do here with our birds and the wildlife versus the natural grass that we have and the habitat? So that's one concern, because I like to see the birds take care of some of those worms I got, even though those worms are good. But another concern that I have is about the chemical. The artificial turf contains certain types of chemicals that over time is going to release, how can I put it, release compounds into the environment, and all the synthetic fields with that crumb rubble, okay, because some people are going to use it. You know, it's especially scrutinized through these new alternatives, because I heard all this when we were talking about Ezel Hester Field out there, and I did a little reading about it. And then we talk about the installation. It's very costly to put it in, and the lifespan of that is somewhere around 10, 20 years. And while it doesn't require mowing and all those things that you mentioned, it still needs maintenance. And going to have to be brushed to keep the fibers upright, and occasionally it's going to have to be cleaned to remove the debris and all that kind of stuff. And I see a lot of trees around. It also has, like I said, a lifespan, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around 10 and 20 years. And it's eventually it's going to need to be replaced. And that's going to be another big cost. So I'm just thinking about these things, and also the injury level, because it's artificial turf tends to be harder and less forgiving than natural grass. And you can ask some of those football players out there with the Bulls, they'll tell you the same thing. So it increases the potential risk of injuries. And but there are turf burns, you know, you slide on those things. I've seen those. The abrasion that they get on the legs, pretty nasty looking. And it can be more common on synthetic surfaces. So I just want you to consider it. I want to support it, but there are some pushbacks, some drawbacks to artificial turf. You know, again, we're talking about the environmental impact of artificial turf. You know, while it eliminates the need of water and fertilizer and pesticides and all those things that you mentioned, but it's made of non-biodegradable material, like plastics, you said, that we're talking about now. And eventually, artificial turf needs to be replaced. So the question in my mind is creating a waste that we need to take care of that's non-biodegradable. That's not always something easy to recycle that we can do. So that just needs to be another consideration to look at how Boca and some of these other cities are handling that. And the last thing that I was thinking about is that artificial turf has a tendency to be extremely hot in the direct sunlight, okay? I've walked out there myself, and it often reaches temperatures much higher than natural grass. And it can make it very uncomfortable to walk and play on hot days. So I was thinking about my grands out there playing on artificial turf in the middle of the summer. That's probably a no-no, but I'm not talking against it, but there are some concerns that we really need to take a close look at before we go down this road. That's all I'm saying. I'm for it. I think it should be an option, and I think a few cities, like you said, have already conquered some of these problems. We need to find out how they did it and move on from there.
And Commissioner, anything that we do put in the code, in no way would this ever be mandatory. This would just be allowing for the option. So each individual homeowner would be able to make some of those choices on their own, but this would never be required in any capacity. And there are still ways to at least limit some of the contaminants. Other cities have done it. It's just about weighing, we've seen everything. We've seen cities that don't allow it anywhere, in the front, in the back, in the sides, anywhere within residential properties. And we've seen much more lenient codes that we've presented today that allow it in any capacity, as long as you are meeting installation and manufacturing standards, which one of those would be the microplastics and contaminant levels, as well as drainage. Those tend to be the major two that from a city side, I would be concerned with regulating in some way.
Have you heard of some of these residents having a mixture of some natural grass in the front yard and some artificial turf? Would that be something that might be a consideration?
I mean, it's possible right now, no, because it's not permitted within the front. In very limited areas, that makes it almost impossible to really do. I have not seen a lot of applications for it in the back, if I had to guess, because this hasn't been something that the city has been following or enforcing very often. There is, I'm sure, a lot of turf that has been installed in backyards without permits. So that would be something else that we would have to tackle. There's also a slew of open cases for turf that has been installed, either without permits or in excess of what is currently permitted, or within the front, which is not permitted.
Okay, thank you. It's worth looking at. I really like the idea. We just need to be concerned about a few things that are brought up, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hay. Listen, I want to move forward regardless of the direction. My position is, if I can go back to what Commissioner Turkin said, if we're going to allow it in the backyard, I don't see the practical difference. Why would we not allow it in the front yard or on the side? What I'm interested in is looking at a potential draft ordinance that models Boca, because there are concerns with artificial turf. However, it is optional, it is on private property, and as long as private property owners are complying with these regulations for drainage and insulation and safety and potential contamination, as long as they're complying with them, I'm okay with it. Again, other cities have figured this out. I'm personally curious about the fine details of what it is that they look for. But in principle, if we allow it in the backside, I don't see what the problem is if they had it in the front, assuming all those conditions I mentioned before. Okay. All right, so several questions or comments. City Manager, were you about to chime in?
Yeah, Mayor, I know the gentleman, he came up during public comment as far as, I guess he was, I don't know if he was cited or warned. I can't remember the exact verbiage he used. But if we're considering changes in this, and I guess this is probably a city attorney question, is are we going to put a moratorium on any sort of further fines or actions from community standards on, like if someone's if they have turf in their front yards, or are we just going to revert back to what we already have as a standing ordinance now? So it sounds to me like there's a want or a need to actually down the line maybe alter this ordinance in the future. And go ahead.
Sorry, just one comment that I have to make from a legal perspective is artificial turf does contain PFAS and PFOs, which the EPA just stated is a toxic chemical. So I would like to meet with Catherine Rosamel, because I actually just looked it up, and you can only have 4 parts per million in our drinking water, and Poonam can tell you what we're spending now to clean up. So even if it gets into your stormwater or in your collection water that we then treat and make non-potable, if you're using that on artificial turf, because it has to be washed and all of those different things. So I just want to meet with Catherine Rosamel and make sure that this is not going to be a potential problem with the new standards that the EPA has set with regard to the PFAS and PFOS.
Great point. Great catch. Thank you, City Attorney, for that. So what I'm hearing, this is you need more time for additional research, and it'll come back to us. Is that what am I hearing you correctly?
That would be my recommendation, unless you guys aren't concerned about that. But I just think there might be some legal implications in the future with regard to that. So I would like to speak to our environmental attorney on that.
All right. And going back to what the city manager said, which is as we're in the process of figuring this out, I would agree with putting a hold on finding anybody until we make these positions clear and final.
Yeah. I would support that.
Now,
meaning that young man that came up would not be penalized, okay, because this is up in discussion.
everything is on hold. Keep what you got, but no additional from this point on until we get information back from our legal.
Do we want to add a time frame for that?
I'm actually going to send her an email right now, but yes, I believe Amanda.
Yeah, what I can also say is, if anyone is actively going to the special magistrate, staff does have the ability to recommend extensions, and this is a perfect example
Great.
of what we would use an extension
solution
for.
right there.
This is part of ongoing conversations, and we could recommend extensions until the commission makes a determination.
Great. And Amanda, just one quick thing, as you're looking at Boca or even Lantana, which was also very similar, I would be curious to know when they started this process and if they're changing anything now because of the new EPA requirements having to do with PFAS. Because if Boca's been allowing this for 15 years, but now they're starting to have to change
some
things
of it.
or recall some of it, that's important information too, because I don't want to do something if then all of the other cities change it because this new EPA, requirements with regard to PFAS have rolled out, so.
Good point, Vice Mayor.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Turkin, then Commissioner Hay.
Yep, no, and then thank you for bringing that up. So we need to look at Ezel Hester too. We need to look at what they did over the East Boynton Beach Little League. If we're, so this is turf overall, right? Doesn't matter if it's a residential or sport use? Is that what the EPA is?
Unfortunately, this
Because you made the
changed.
comment about the EPA making,
It just came out
It
this
just came
year.
out, okay.
So,
Is there-
this brings up a bigger issue.
so is this just turf overall, the usage of
I,
turf overall?
I don't know.
It's
And
the
so-
chemical, it's the specific chemical.
Okay.
So in
Yeah.
any capacity, turf would just be one of the emitters of that toxin. And what I can do is I will commit to reaching out to utilities too. I'm sure that there have been some studies on what is done when there are PFAS. I'm sure there's some treatment. There may be cost to that. So I will touch base with utilities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, 'cause I don't-
Actually, that's why I brought up that conversation, future discussion with Poonam about what we do with our water treatment as we address PFAS and PFAS. Okay? All right, so it sounds like we need a little bit more time to come back, but in the meantime, there is an extension in any enforcement.
Absolutely.
Okay, are we done? Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Part E. Presentation updates on development projects around the city. Of course. Of course.
It's still me, Amanda Radigan, Planning and Development Director. If we could bring up the presentation, please. It is in a PDF format. If you could please put it in full screen. Thank you. So you all did get some bags with some of the things, the publications and merchandise that have been coming out of economic development and development overall. One of the things that you did get was this publication, which is the Boynton Beach Development Portfolio. This is the 2024 version, and from this, we plan to update it annually in terms of collecting all of the development that is within the city. This is going to be a very valuable tool in terms of attracting investment, attracting business owners to come to the city. Some of the other things in your, it feels like Christmas up here. So I'm sorry. So some of the other publications in there, just to give you a quick inventory of what's in there, you do have the 4 last quarterly development reports that are in there that cover the last year. And you also have the newly released housing guide and the restaurant guide, all of which are tools for business and investment recruitment. So this presentation is largely modeled after the development portfolio, and we will be going through most of the developments that are in here, as well as including the statuses, because the request really was for the status of some of these developments. So this is your development leadership team. All of development reports to Assistant City Manager Adam Temple. He runs the show here. We've got, don't blush. We've got 2 division directors that report directly to Adam. They cover all of the administrative services and the general department services. And then you have 3 department directors that are managing development as a whole. You have myself, who is the Director of Planning and Development. You have John Kunzman, who is the Director of Building, and Candace Stone, who is the Director of Community Standards. All of these people on the screen have a very large impact in everything you're going to see moving on in this presentation. So some language. Generally, development is approved in these 4 phases. Planning is the first phase. This is the phase that you all see at City Commission. These are the site plans that you see. We call that land entitlement. I'll be referring to that here as planning. The next is plat. This is another land tool to get the land ready for development. Third, LDP, is land development permit. This is active construction for everything that is underground and on the site. And then the last step, you see permit, that is referring to vertical construction, buildings. In order to be in construction, you need to pass all 4 of these steps. In some instances, plats aren't required. Each of these steps has 3 statuses: approved, submitted, or in review, and then not started. So the way I'm going to talk about each one of these projects are, they have approved planning steps, they have submitted, you'll see it in yellow for like plat and LDP, and if it's red, it means it hasn't been started yet. So you'll see that little diagram along with every single development that we're going to look at. I will also say this is a lot of information. If you have questions, feel free to interrupt me. I'm sure it'll be harder to go back. So this is a general map of the development within the city right now. You can see we are very, very active. We'll be covering residential, workforce, mixed-use, commercial, and industrial within this presentation. Currently, we have over $2 billion in development investment right now. Within residential developments, and this is going to be the format for each one of the projects that I'll review. This project is called Baywalk. They are 25-unit townhomes. They are currently approved in planning. They have submitted or in review for both plat and land development permits, but they have not submitted for vertical construction yet. Workforce. So this project is unique in this DEX right here because this is one of the projects and the first approved project within the county that is a Live Local project. This was approved on federal on 2 very large pieces of vacant property. It is a workforce housing product. The south portion contains 298 dwelling units. That is multifamily apartments, and then the north end includes 38 townhomes. We are getting over the required 40% of these units as affordable housing. I'd also like to mention that the Planning and Development Department did create a website that has this project listed, and any other approved Live Local projects will be populated on that website. So they are currently approved within planning, and they have active applications for plats, land development permits, and vertical construction. The Pulte Cottage District, you'll recognize this one from the CRA. This was started as a CRA project. It is approved within planning, and they have active submissions for plat, land development permits, and vertical permits. Some of the mixed-use developments. Ocean One, this one is central to the downtown. They also have picked up a lot of speed lately. They are approved within planning, and they have active applications for all 3, plat, LDP, and permit. And this is 371 multifamily units. Shalimar, so this is one of the bigger investments that is not within the CRA. This is on the western side of the city. This includes 250 residential units and about 4,300 square foot of commercial space. They are fully approved within planning. This project did not have to do a plat, and they have active submittals for both their LDP and vertical construction. Okay, the Villages at East Ocean on the north side. So this project was approved with 336 units and just shy of 8,000 square foot of commercial space. They are fully approved within planning and have active submittals for plat, LDP, and permits. The Pierce, this is another one from the CRA-initiated projects. This is approved with 300 dwelling units and just over 17,000 square foot of commercial space. They are fully submitted within planning. And this is how quickly things change. This presentation was completed on Friday, and this isn't up to date. So right now, they haven't submitted plat, but as of Friday evening, they did submit their land development permits. So those are active and in review, and they do have vertical permit reviews happening as well. Town Square, this is another big project. It is made up of 2 different site plans.
Amanda, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Real quick, go back to the piers. So why have they not submitted the plat?
They will get that comment within LDP. So we just
Okay.
got their land development permit. We've had conversations with them, and they do know they have to do it.
Okay.
Since it happened just Friday, we sent a notice to them to not forget their plat, because they do need their plat approved before we approve their LDP.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So Town Square, 2 separate projects consisting of 898 units, just over 38,000 square feet of commercial space. This is fully approved within planning. They have submitted for plat. We do not have land development or vertical permits submitted yet. Commercial developments. Lemongrass Takeout. This is the parcel that is just west of the new Taco Bell on Federal, just on the southern side of Federal. They are fully approved within planning. They do not need to plat, and they have active LDP and permits in. Same thing with the Boynton Beach office condominium. This was another CRA initiated project. They don't need a plat, and they have active LDP and vertical permits in. 1320, this is also another one that has made some recent updates. This is a commercial structure, about 10,000 square feet, fully approved in planning. They do not need to plat, and they have active reviews in land development and vertical construction.
It's the old
just thought it
medical
had died.
school.
The old IHOP,
Old IHOP.
yeah, on
Oh,
Riviera Drive.
So they're back.
They're back, yes.
This whole time I thought they had,
Yeah, me too. Some of these projects have been extending their development orders to wait for the market to turn again. And what we're seeing is a lot of the projects that we have approved in 2017, 2018 are now coming back for construction. So this one was approved a few years ago and is just coming in now for their permit reviews.
I'm looking forward to the art museum component of this. I'm
Me
assuming
too.
it stays the way it is.
I hope so. We'll see. Again, this is one that's been dormant for quite some
Yeah.
time. So once we get it through the first cycle of reviews, we'll know more about what it's looking like.
Great.
I'm going to skip this one for a second. Okay, so industrial. We've got the Puglease Industrial Contractor Workshop. This is an industrial investment, about 10,000 square feet. This is within an existing industrial pocket, which is on the south side of Congress. This is approved in planning. They have an active plat, but haven't submitted for LDPs or their permitting yet. Under construction, we have a few that are actively underway. The WXEL expansion is one of them. This is about a 7,000 square foot expansion to the existing facility. It is largely an auditorium and some teaching space. They have everything fully approved, and they are moving dirt and building walls there already. 2 other ones that are under construction. These are both industrial investments. One very, very significant, the Publix Distribution Center, with over 500,000 square foot expansion in industrial space, active construction, and nearing completion. The Foundry is another industrial investment on the west side off of Congress, about just shy of 500,000 square feet. They are fully approved and under construction. Right now, they're currently within their site phase, so they're doing land work right now. These are some recently completed projects. The 3 on this page are all workforce housing products. They equate to about 250 units, all within the heart of Boynton. This includes Ocean Breeze East, heart of Boynton Village South, and the heart of Boynton Village North. Other completed projects, 500 Ocean. This is the oldest one within the bunch that we decided to include because it's one of the first real examples of mixed use within the downtown. So I decided to include it within this. So it's part of the portfolio at its inception. Riverwalk at Woolbright and Federal, 319 units completed and occupied. An enterprise truck rental, this is just about completed. If we give it one more week, they're installing their last bit of trees in right now. pending projects. So these are the projects that we have approved and I have not heard from yet. So these went through approvals within planning. Many of you have seen lots of these projects, but we have no active submittals for construction yet. That includes Harbor K, which is a residential development, including 25 townhomes, Potter Townhomes, which is 8 units, Broadstone at Boynton Beach. This has went by several names, GCI, Legacy. This is the project that is on the south side of Boynton and Federal. And then Miraflor Apartments, which is 58 units on the north side of Seacrest. The other project that we have not heard anything and don't have any active submittals from is Villages at Eat Ocean on the south side. Just one more slide about some new businesses that we have seen here. All of these are very, very exciting. This includes Ramen Lab, Just Salad. We have a new Italian place coming soon, Bird's Hot Chicken, Replay, Sprouts coming soon, Ford's Garage, and many, 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 many more. We get lists every month of all the new businesses that are coming to Boynton. And I am available for any questions.
Thank you.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
Thank you. It's 8:50. Can we make it?
Thank you, Amanda.
My pleasure.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Amanda. Who wants to begin? Questions, comments for her? Anything? Vice Mayor, you
Thank you so
requested
much.
this.
That's it.
Yeah, no, I think it's, thank you, Amanda, for doing this presentation. I think it's so important for us and also for the public to really see what's going on in the city. And it's exciting, especially to see the businesses along Congress Avenue really, really coming back and, you know, bringing that back to life a little bit. And I'm excited to see what's, you know, up and coming with some of the rumor mills that we've heard and some of the other, you know, possibilities along Congress Avenue. So I think I brought this up because I think it's important that, that everyone really see what is going on in the city and what we have in the pipeline and where it is in the pipeline too, because I think it's important. We vote on these items and then they're going through the process and then, you know, I have residents ask, what's going on with that? I haven't seen anything. So it's nice to be able to say, hey, we have this presentation actually. So is this going to be, are you going to post this somewhere?
So this document is already posted
in the
online.
portfolio? Okay.
Yeah, so the portfolio is already posted. What this document doesn't have are the status of the projects, only because that is.
It changes,
it-
yeah.
Day to day. It is a
Yeah.
very, it is literally a snapshot. Next week, this presentation would look different.
Mm-hmm.
But what, you know, one of the things I'm happy to do is as we release new development portfolios, to do a status review, and we can always post this, you know, as a link underneath this, this publication.
Perfect. Thank you.
Going once, going twice. If there's nothing else.
To adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Thank you
Good
so much to
night.
everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Be safe.
Vote tomorrow. Vote.